pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll, Atlantic.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Tango Delta nominal.
Flight down, SC off. Bring in, SC off.
Yikes.
Chaz reporting no sound. Michael,
It's
muted.
Sorry, it's 4 a.m. for me. I screwed up. My bad. We're good.
Jack, can you hear me now? All right, let's try this again. Sorry about that. Welcome.
This is why we start with you know the drill. Give me a 5x5. That's why we start the broadcast, Thomas.
Doss,
Go
I
ahead.
can never match your expertise. It's okay.
We need to finish the intro though. Yikes.
Okay, but
Yikes.
you bet.
You bet. Concurred. Yeah.
Good grief. We need to practice that. Go, Thomas. Go.
We don't need any more of these.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Jack. Welcome to West Texas. We are looking live at New Shepard and Blue Origin preparing for their first ever human spaceflight mission. I'm joined by the NASA Spaceflight team. My name is Thomas Burkhart, News Director for NASA Spaceflight. I'm joined in the studio by Assistant Managing Editor Chris Gebhardt. Chris, how are you doing this morning?
I am doing just fine and ready to watch 4 people go to space today.
Absolutely. Also, back here in the studio, we got Das. Das, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It's early, but we're ready to see this. I like the flare stack action Jack pointed out on Twitter. It's been a while since we've seen a good flare stack at a rocket launch site.
Yeah. You
Good
know,
old
no,
hydrogen.
yeah, the hydrogen flare stack, which is not what, channel veterans might be used to a different flare stack, but, very, very cool. Also in the studio, we got Mr. Michael Baylor pushing buttons and pulling levers. Michael, how you doing?
Don't say that. DOS is operating the stream. And
Wait, what? Don't put that on me, sir.
I'm just kidding. Yes. Excited to see a launch of New Shepard today with 4 astronauts for the first time.
And last but most certainly not least, out there in the field, deployed out to West Texas for today's launch is Mr. Jack Beyer, photographer, videographer, live streamer, etc. for NASA Spaceflight. Jack, how is West Texas out there in the morning?
It's a beautiful morning here. There was a lot of stars out earlier, but it's like a little bit of a cloud layer has moved in, but hopefully moves out. But either way, it is a beautiful, beautiful morning for some space flight. Hopefully we get to see a bunch of people, 4 people fly into space today. That would be really cool. And what a view. I mean, like Das said, it's been a while since we've had a flare stack on one of our streams, and you gotta love a good flare stack. And this one, like you guys said, is a hydrogen flare, not a methane flare, which makes it kind of cooler, honestly, if you ask me. But I digress. It's great out here. I'm in a good mood, bright and early, ready to go to space.
Absolutely, and loving this shot that Jack is giving us. Again, Jack is out there live crewing the camera in West Texas, and you can see the crew access tower and the New Shepard rocket. The rocket is actually already venting as fueling has been underway for just over an hour now. The fueling countdown starts at T-minus 3 hours, and we're just under 2 hours from the targeted liftoff. Blue Origin still says they are targeting the opening of the window today, which is at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. local time in West Texas. And they have a decent window for that. The temporary flight restriction lasts all the way till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So if any weather or technical items come up, they have plenty of time to work that. But right now, everything seems to be on track for an opening of the window liftoff. And also, of course, we mentioned that flare stack, part of the ground equipment, because New Shepard is a hydrogen-fueled rocket, and to store liquid hydrogen, you need to be able to safely vent and burn some of it off. So that's what you're seeing there. I know we'll probably get some questions about that. Happy to talk about that later on as well. But let's go ahead and preview this mission. This is the first ever crewed spaceflight on a New Shepard rocket. New Shepard has flown 15 missions prior to today, all of which were uncrewed test flights, testing various parts of the system, launch escape tests, and things like that, as well as just kind of normal dress rehearsal test flights. And finally, today they are ready to put the first people on board. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Blue Origin, kind of taking a ride to prove that the vehicle is safe and show customers how much confidence they have in the rocket. In addition to his brother Mark, Mercury 13 aviator Wally Funk, way back in the early days of America's space program, one of the first attempts at having female astronauts. We can talk about that a little bit later. Finally getting her ride to space, and then the first ever paying customer, who was the son of the runner-up to the auction of the seat for this flight. We can talk a little bit about that later too. But will be the oldest. The Wally Funk will be the oldest person ever to space, and Oliver will be the youngest ever to space. So some interesting things there as well. Chris G, what are your thoughts on today's mission? What gets you excited about today?
Wally Funk. In 2 words.
Team Wally.
Yeah, Wally, is truly what, like, when you say this mission, it's what makes me smile. It's the fact that someone who, uh, dedicated her life to, to flight, to all sorts of flight, to air safety, to, you know,
Yeah,
a
how many
person
thousands of
yeah, it's
how many thousands and thousands of it was like 18,000 flight hours or some insane number that I can't even wrap my head around she has.
Yeah, and it was something like she would have been one of the most experienced people to go to space from a flight hours perspective, and I think she is, in terms of a flight hours perspective, up there, if not at the top. But even just thinking back to the 1960s, when she participated in the psychological and physiological training that NASA's male astronauts were going through, and there were people who wanted to verify that women could do it too. And what they found, in some regards, like normal, when you put a random set of people together, is that some of the women were better than some of the men. Some of the men were better than some of the women, but Wally was at the top of her class, in that training. And to see her get to travel, and travel up there, and finally see the planet from that vantage point, that's the part of this that really makes me smile this morning.
Yeah,
What about you,
absolutely.
Thomas?
I'm excited for what this will set up. In the future, this is the first of many human spaceflights that Blue Origin wants to complete with New Shepard. And I'm looking forward to, after this initial test flight. I guess I don't know. This really isn't a test flight anymore. This is a demonstration flight, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, they're calling Oliver the first paying customer, so there's a bit of a yeah. This is actually the first commercial flight. I think the next one will be a more purely commercial flight. Um, but either way, this is going to set the stage for future flights. In fact, Blue Origin says they want to launch 2 more missions before the end of the year, and this will set the stage for that and help everyday people start to have access to experiencing spaceflight, even if it's on a suborbital vehicle like New Shepard, like Virgin Galactic and Spaceship Two, which we saw the other week. All of these systems coming online that can maybe help some more people experience spaceflight, which I think is an awesome thing. So that's what's getting me excited about this.
Yeah.
I do want to just really briefly thank Blue Origin for the access to this for this live stream. They have invited Jack out to their viewing area to witness the launch and broadcast it live to all of you. So everyone watching, thanks for tuning in, and we're just super excited to be able to provide live coverage of the launch today.
Yeah,
As
Thomas, let me jump in real quick there and also say thanks to Blue Origin. I mean, as the broadcast guy, it may be tough. I want to tell people up front, there are a lot of media out there and there are not very many cell phone towers. There's like one of each between 2 different networks. And so it's perfectly possible as we get into the broadcast here that we may start to hit some signal degradation. We can only do what we can. NASA Spaceflight did not install any NASA Spaceflight cell phone towers out there. But we did make sure that we had Blue Origin's approval. We're not like sneaking behind a bush or anything like that. We actually gave them a list of our equipment, and we got in writing that equipment was okay to have on site, always taking the safety and security into account. And if there's any sort of concern like that, we always go by with what the launch provider asked us to do. And we have in writing from them today that we're okay to be there with this equipment. But for everybody watching, I will say we don't know what the cellular signal is going to do. We're stuck on those 2 towers, and it may be that before the launch, all the media hop on and start uploading selfies with a flare stack or something. I don't know. Maybe a picture of that dinner that Jeff brought him yesterday. But I want to be very clear. We are in a very, very edge situation here. There are some people that are going to be sharing that signal, and we may get some hiccups. I just want to say up front there may be some hiccups. So we're also going to be looking at Blue Origin as well, who has some video feeds, and we'll do what we can. But thanks again for Blue Origin for not only letting us be out there, but approving our equipment to be there as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I will show, once we get to Blue Origin feed, I will show that as well, and we will cut around the host. So we'll have, like usual, we'll have our clean feed with no talking heads to focus as well, and we will focus all of our attention on you, Shepard.
Right, and again, just to reiterate, because I see some people asking in chat, yes, this camera view you're seeing right now is a NASA spaceflight camera
Yep.
crewed by Jack Beyer out there in the field. We will also bring in Blue Origin's feed, but Blue Origin has invited us to broadcast our own camera feed. That is what we are there for. So, yeah, big thank you to Blue for that. As always with the NASA Spaceflight live stream, we like to take questions live and talk about the mission. And if you have any questions and you tag us with @NASA Spaceflight, we'll go ahead and try to answer as many of those questions as we can. I've already got a huge queue of questions. You guys want to answer some questions?
I think so. Let's go for it.
All right, well, we kind of predicted it. The very first question is, what is the purpose of the flare stack? So let's talk about that just so everyone knows what they're looking at here.
The lightning hits it, doesn't it? Isn't that to
Oh,
protect the rocket from lightning?
no, no, no. Different towers, guys.
Oh,
Different. Are
oh,
there even
it's
lightning
early.
towers there? I can't see any. It's too dark out there.
There are not. The tower itself actually provides lightning protection if they needed it.
Ah, gotcha.
Yes.
And so, but to answer the question about the flare stack, so when you're storing certain propellants, certain rocket propellants, such as liquid hydrogen, which is what New Shepard uses, or liquid methane, which you may have seen from the Starship live streams, or at least until recently, because they replaced it with a different system. I won't get into that, but they used to have a flare stack, and that is basically allows venting from these storage tanks. However, you don't want to release pure hydrogen or pure methane out into the atmosphere. So while you vent it, you burn it off, and that prevents any hazardous gases from being expelled into the atmosphere like that. Um, Also helps with some environmental concerns, especially with liquid methane. That's not a great, it's a very big greenhouse gas, so you don't want to release that. You'd rather burn it off as you expel it. So that's what a flare stack is. It basically allows you to safely vent from your ground storage tanks. And so any launch site that uses liquid hydrogen rockets or liquid methane rockets will have a flare stack somewhere. Even at Cape Canaveral at pad 41, where the Atlas V upper stage uses hydrogen, there's a flare stack. There's one at the Delta IV launch complex. Both launch complexes, 39, 39A and 39B, have them from the shuttle program and from the Saturn V program. Obviously, the one at 39A doesn't get much use these days because the Falcon fleet is all kerosene, but
They
uh,
actually did not have a flare stack for the Apollo era, I learned. They had a
really?
pool. They had a pool, so they would burn it off the same way, but it would basically go into this retention pool, and the top of the pool would be on fire, and they would burn it off that way.
That's so metal.
That is very interesting. All right, so well, thank you for the correction there, Chris. But that is what the flare stack is for, and that I know we'll probably get a bunch of questions at that as our broadcast progresses. So we'll probably come back to that a little bit. But that's what you're seeing on your stream right now. Let's talk a little bit about the launch profile. We got some questions here asking what is the maximum G-force that the New Shepard capsule can encounter during reentry and the fall back to Earth. So this is a suborbital mission. It's not going towards orbital velocity. It's not going to experience as much heating and G-forces as an orbital reentry would. But what can we expect? What can the astronauts on board expect to experience during today's flight, Chris?
Yeah, so I want to sort of answer the question a slightly different way than it was asked, because the sort of maximum G-force that will be experienced is actually on the way up. Um, in terms of like the sustained G-forces, where those G-forces will build to over two. I think they build to roughly 2.5 Gs on the way up. in the 2.5 minute burn of the New Shepard booster. But once that burn is done and the capsule separates, that G-force goes away because you're not under propulsive force anymore. And they'll get about 4-ish, maybe 5, depending on how well the engine burns today, what the actual max altitude that they reach is. New Shepard typically reaches an altitude between 105 and 113 kilometers, so that can certainly vary the time that you're exposed to microgravity, not weightlessness, but technically microgravity. But yeah, the reentry and fall back to Earth is actually pretty smooth. The only real jerky motions that you get are when the parachutes deploy, which do sort of, shift you down further into your seat. So you will get a temporary G-force acceleration when the parachutes deploy. And then, very much like the Soyuz, this capsule lands Soyuz style in the desert, where about a second prior to touchdown, when the radars and everything sense that the capsule is very near the ground, a retro rocket fires to perform the final element of slowdown to get it to a nice, like, 4, 5, 6-ish meters per second touchdown speed, which is about what you want for a crew landing. So that's more or less what they're going to experience today. But the maximum G forces are actually on the way up, not on the way back. And I have seen another question that I want to grab because I think it's germane, Thomas, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Um, and this is from Logan. Basically, what will the capsule experience during reentry? It's a very similar question. Logan, you asked it a couple of times, I think. Um, but basically, like, this capsule doesn't need the heat shield like the SpaceX capsules or the Starliners do, or any of the other vehicles that perform orbital speed atmospheric reentries. You're not going to get that high of a speed, so there's no heat shield in that regard. There is a thermal coating on the vehicle though, but it doesn't attain the speeds necessary to achieve plasma stage of reentry like orbital vehicles do.
Right, and that's why we don't see a big heat shield on either the booster or the capsule. The booster has to come back and have basically the exact same
Mhm.
reentry profile. It is a reusable booster. If you are not familiar with the new Shepard system, both the booster and the capsule are fully reusable, and that's part of making this space tourism system low enough cost that everyday people can start to afford tickets. So that's an important thing to point out as well. Thank you, Chris.
And I'm sure we'll get a question on the price.
Oh, of course, we have 1 hour and 40 minutes to talk about everything related to this flight leading up to liftoff. I'm sure we will get to that too. I do want to quickly acknowledge some super chats and stuff that have come through. We're taking questions from chat. We're taking super chat questions, all of the above. You don't have to pay to ask a question, but if you are sending support our way, we do want to thank you really quick. And Steven, just thank you so much for your support. The safest trip, a success for one is a success for all. And then, oh my goodness. This guy shows up in our chat a fair amount, and when he does, he sends a whole lot of support. Dank Jeb, $100. Thank you so, so much for your very generous support. And he simply asks, when's suborbital hop? Thank you, Jeb. And just under 2 hours from now, we will get the new Shepard hop, if you would. And thank you just so much for your support. Yeah, and let's see, Matt T, thank you for the new membership. Appreciate you. And I'll keep throwing some thanks to the people sending their support our way. But if you're just joining us and tuning in, I want to thank you too. And we're going to keep going with some questions and things like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, Thomas.
Yeah.
This is sort of our deal, I know, to roll out and bring video like this, but I wanted to do our thing really quickly. We share this
Oh
with
boy.
people. We like to go live earlier than everybody else, so people that are really looking for a place to get informed about the event today are ready to go. And we send our signal all over the world via the internet. So what I want to do real quick is see, it's super early in the morning for Jack and us, but where's everybody watching from this morning? Put in chat. We'll try to read a couple of it. I already see some Norways. There's a UK in there, Australia, other side of the world. It's actually winter over there right now, isn't it? Dublin, Wisconsin, Scotland, a couple Scotlands, quite a few Scotlands. There's an Ohio in there, a lot of Australians. I think our time slot's going to hit a lot of Australians here. Some Norways, a lot of Europes as well.
I wonder how many people from Texas are watching, given the situation with the road closure. Hopefully, a lot of people that wanted to watch live and couldn't are watching our stream and able to enjoy it that way at the very least.
Yeah, that was a big deal there. The entire public road that you could actually watch this launch from is shut down. We don't think it's shut down for safety reasons. We think it's shut down for crowd control reasons. It's just not designed to have very much traffic on it, or especially there's no parking lots or grandstands or anything like that to hold lots of people. So we're glad that we're able to, as I talk, we're troubleshooting a little bit of an issue there with some flickering, but I'm glad we're able to share this with people who can't really, I'm going to say can't really safely drive out there, because if there were too many people stacked on the side of the road without appropriate facilities, not even really a shoulder to pull off on, Texas Department of Transportation has that road closed down. So it's going to be pretty much impossible for anyone in the public, even if you're out there in West Texas and Van Horn, to watch this with your own eyes. So
Although
happy. Go ahead.
I will say on the drive out here, I was a little bit surprised. A significant number of recreational vehicles and other vehicles parked on the side of the road. I think if you look at that Texas DOT thing that they tweeted out, the map,
Yep.
it appears that there's sort of the same situation as Boca Chica, where there is a soft block and a hard block. And the soft block, I think, goes up at 7 a.m. And I think a lot of people kind of came out early and decided to camp out on the side of the road. And I don't know if they're going to get moved or pushed away, or even if they'll have a
Yeah.
view from where they're at. But there are people out here trying to see what they can, even at the distances that they have to stay. But it's just a matter of safety, like you said.
Yeah.
It's literally 45 minutes from here to the nearest hospital. It's going to be a hot day out in the desert. You don't want people getting heat stroke. Multiple people getting heat stroke. 45 minutes away from a hospital. That's not great. But yeah, it just sort of is what
Yeah.
it is. And really
Overwhelm
quick,
emergency services too. Like you could
Yeah.
overwhelm. There's not going to be like a huge fleet of ambulances in Van Horn to help people that need help. And so across the board, I think they're looking out for people's safety there. The area is just not. You'd think it's like West Texas. There's so much space, but the roadway, there's just not places to park. I think they're looking out for safety
Well,
of people that are viewing. But go ahead, Chris. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's an excellent point, Jack, because I don't think that's something that we think of a lot, right? Like we always see those videos of people cramming the coastlines at Titusville and Cocoa, and doing the same now in South Padre Island, and the lines of people that show up at Ocean Avenue in Lompoc, and ooh, the flare stack's doing something nice. That's
Wow.
normal. Don't panic, anyone. That
Yeah.
happens from time to time in a countdown.
Wait, do we have a spreadsheet for that? What does that
Yeah.
mean?
We have a spreadsheet.
Yes, you will see the hydrogen flare stack do that from time to time. It's not necessarily an indication that anything is wrong, even though it's dramatic looking at night. But there's also massive hospitals and infrastructure, and things in place to deal with those types of influxes of people at those locations. This is the first time humans are launching to space from Texas. Nobody has any experience with this, especially rural little areas in West Texas. So I think that's a really good point to bring up, that road closure, as annoying as it might be for people wanting to go see this moment, wanting to see Texas, the state, join the human spaceflight arena that California, New Mexico, Florida, Baikonur, and Juquan all have right now. y- it's disappointing, certainly, but that's a great point. It's going to be hot, heat stroke, heat exhaustion,
yeah, I
lack
mean,
of access to medical
there's critters
facilities.
out
That's
here
a
too.
yeah,
There's
snakes.
rattlesnakes, there's
Yeah,
tarantulas, there's all kinds of stuff. And, I'm no stranger to the desert, and they're keeping us nice and safe here, so I'm all good. Don't worry about me, but definitely members of the general public. But I will say, hopefully that is something that Blue considers working on in the future.
yeah.
If they had a public viewing area out here, I guarantee you, all kinds of school kids from El Paso and Van Horn and all of that would want to come out and watch this launch. And just speaking personally, I'm sure many of us on this stream and many people watching, speaking personally, one of the things that solidified my love of spaceflight was seeing a launch when I was a kid from as up
Yeah.
close as we could get. I begged and begged and begged my parents to get a car pass so that we could watch a shuttle launch from the causeway, and it blew my mind as a kid growing up. And here we are now. I'm sitting at a launch site. I do this for a living. Like, if you want to inspire kids and you want to get the public on your side and you want to have people, be in your corner, having a nice spot for them to sort of watch what you're doing is not necessarily a bad call. And while I'm on the topic of my parents, thank you, Mom and Dad, for for taking me to that shuttle launch and for supporting me and believing that I could actually do something like this. And Mom, I know you just had some dental surgery. I hope you feel better. I hope you're doing okay today. I'll talk to you soon. Love you.
Aw, shucks, Jack.
Yeah,
That's
you know,
nice.
I don't often
Yeah.
get sappy, but I know my mom's not feeling great. So love you,
Yeah.
Mom. I hope you feel better.
Same thing, same thing. I hope your mom feels better as well. Mom Buyer, hope you're doing okay.
Fun fact: her name is
Indeed.
Mary. Actually,
Oh,
Miriam, but Mary.
oh, no kidding?
Yeah,
Ah,
isn't that great?
Very cool. Alright, so I'm going to keep going with some questions and stuff like that. Again, if you have questions about today's mission, please feel free to ask us in chat and we'll try our best to answer them. I've got a question that I don't know the answer to, so I'm going to hope someone else on the team does. Asking why do they launch so early, similar to Virgin Galactic? Is the air calmer and more predictable, something like that? Obviously, I mean, right now, the sun hasn't even risen in West Texas yet. Do we know why they
yep.
choose these kind of launch times?
We do, and the question is almost hits it exactly correctly. It has to do with a combination of the atmosphere is usually stabler in morning because it calms down from the heat and the convection during the day that builds up, especially over the desert, especially over western Texas and that portion of the United States. Weather is also usually more calmer and more acceptable in the morning. If you are locations that are worried about daytime heating triggering thunderstorms, with that which that portion of the desert can do down there near the Texas New Mexico border. The earlier you go, the better. The other consideration is lighting. If you target the beginning of the day just after the sun rises, and you encounter an issue, you have several hours where you have good lighting conditions that you can work the issue and get ready to get off the ground, even if it means delaying for several hours. Sort of like how we see today, where the airspace closure notice goes for several hours and extends into the afternoon. So those are the main reasons why they always go early. If you were with us earlier this week for our 3 a.m. Starliner rollout, it was the exact same reason. They needed to get Starliner the several kilometers from its processing hangar out to the Atlas pad, which doesn't have a building that they can just truck it into if it starts raining or storming. So they had to go super early so they were done and they had it mated before the afternoon thunderstorms kicked in. So that's why you see these things target very early in the morning if they don't have a specific launch window or rendezvous window that they are trying to hit.
And
Here's a
as
bit
they
of informed speculation too on my part. If you launch earlier in the day, you have more daylight with which to do recovery operations.
That too, yes.
Oh, that's a
That
good
too.
point.
Excellent point, Jack. Yep. Especially when we get crew on board. Yep.
Yeah, and as a suborbital vehicle that is, again, like you said, not rendezvousing with anything, if this isn't going to orbit, missions to orbit, generally speaking, have stricter launch windows that have to do with the physical ability for the rocket to get to a specific orbit. Obviously, that does not apply to a suborbital vehicle, so you have these nice long launch windows to work with. Let's go ahead and take another question here. Let's see. All right, here's a good one from Thomas. Nice name, Thomas. Just asking about, I've read a lot that some people think space tourism is a waste of money and resources. What are our views on this? Do we want to talk a little bit about that?
I think
Yeah.
that's a really cynical way to look at things. I mean, people probably thought planes were a waste of money and resources. People probably thought cars were a waste of resources. People
Yeah.
probably thought the internet was a waste of money and resources. So, you know what I say to that? I say, go eat a cookie. Feel better about yourself and quit being so darn cynical. I mean, I can
What?
I can be pretty cynical. You know what?
Go
I can be
eat
a
a
pretty
cookie?
cynical Yeah, it's nice. Have a nice sweet cookie. Maybe you'll feel better about things. I mean, maybe that's a little bit too flippant, but honestly, like sometimes you just gotta accept things for what they are. And yes, this is a spacecraft that is launching a billionaire into orbit or into suborbit. But fact of the matter is this is pioneering stuff here, and yeah, this is how it happens. And hopefully, this is the first stepping stone on a road to space, as Blue Origin likes to say. That's my two. You guys can feel free to be a little bit less flippant if you want.
Well, I was
Christy,
gonna
you're
just
next.
yeah, I was gonna just make a joke and say, well, tell us how you really feel, Jack.
Yeah, jeez. Gives it to us
But
with both barrels first thing in the morning.
I think honestly the only thing that I would add to Jack are sort of two things here. I I still want to see what the actual ticket prices on these vehicles end up being. Blue Origin has absolutely not said. They avoided the question like the plague, even in the press conference in the run up to this mission, where they have been touting that this is the first paying customer. I think that's a little dubious claim because he didn't pay for it himself, and the auction winner clearly paid first. But they could
Someone
PR.
bought him a seat,
Eh,
They
Bought
could
a seat.
PR.
Someone
Yeah,
bought a seat for
yeah.
him.
I
So
mean, I
it
have a
kind of
little
counts.
trouble with the wording that they're
Yeah.
using,
he's the
but
first paid customer. Paid instead of paying.
paid
It's
Yeah, there
paid.
you go. That could
exactly.
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like obviously that was for charity. Obviously they were going for the maximum dollar value they could probably get. And hey, credit where credit is due. 28 million from the winning person to a charity that disseminates a lot of money to other organizations that help kids and help, people who are interested in STEM get engaged in it. They talked about STEM, but they also gave a large grant to Nicole Stott's STEAM, which advocates for art. And so that, credit where credit is due for the raising of that money for causes and things that everyone in our industry should really care about, right? And getting that next
19.
generation involved.
Wasn't
Right.
it 19 different charities? They gave $1 million each to 19 different charities, if I got that number right. And
Yep.
that's
Yes.
nothing to
Nine,
sneeze at.
19
No,
charities?
19
19.
charities each got $1 million
19
from that.
charities. Sorry,
Yeah.
I was just doing the
Yeah.
Ferris Bueller thing again. I apologize.
I got you,
Yeah.
Jack. I got you.
So like this isn't a cut and dry question is sort of what I'm trying to get at with this. And I don't personally disparage anyone who does want to talk about the billionaire aspect of it. I don't disparage anyone who wants to talk about the potential access that this opens up. I am one who always raises my hand and reminds people too that hey, sometimes you're not going to see these vehicles carrying the maximum number of people that they can because there are also science experiments that are being taken up on them. Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin are yes, they are tourism. Yes, that is the primary reason these things were developed. They also fly scientific experiments for research organizations and space agencies. So I think there's a multifaceted aspect to this, and I don't disparage anyone for which element of that they choose to grab onto because I don't know how they all fit together yet, and I don't really know if we truly do know how they all fit together yet. So I don't think it's fair to talk about the interplay between them, but I do totally think it's fair to talk about all different aspects of it.
Yeah.
And things like that. But I think the thing I would point out when we talk about the billionaire element of it is, yeah, there's certainly optics. Yes, some I would argue are better at optics than others. But, air travel didn't arrive because regular everyday people developed the technology, right? And it took a long time for air travel to get to the point where it was accessible to the every quote unquote everyday person. So I want to see where this goes, but I don't disparage anyone for the particular route that you take in terms of what the angle of this flight is today, is how I answer that question.
Yeah,
You
that's a really good way to put it, and I hope that my comments don't come across as disparaging anybody. I mean, you can be upset
Oh,
about
I didn't mean
wealth
to, Jack.
inequality, and you can be happy about spaceflight at the same time. Good point, Chris.
You know what I want to say? I'm going to hop in real quick. I don't want to beat the dead horse too much, but everybody look on your desk, right? Look in your pocket. You're laying in bed still because it's super early. Laying next to you, you got a cell phone, don't you? Now imagine back in the 80s when cell phones were this huge thing that you installed in a vehicle, and it was only the day traders that could afford a cell phone. Oh, all these super rich people, and they have this cool, fancy technology. And look next to you right now. You've got one, most likely. And this is just a natural progression. You start off with spaceflight. It's exclusive. It's expensive. Wow, only these people can get this done. But that's part of the process. It's part of the evolution of things like this. Did it with cars, did it with airplanes, your cell phone that you have right now. So I think I know that it's a popular target and people like to say, oh, this, that, and the other, but it's a step towards the direction we want to go. We want to climb the mountain, and you start climbing the mountain with the first step. There's a lot of research papers actually about it. I was reading something that Dr. Phil Metzger put out about the number of research papers talking about the economics of things like this and talking about suborbital or orbital tourism and saying this is a natural progression that this always goes through. We don't just go from this isn't even a thing nobody has to all of a sudden it's $5, line up and go, right? So this is a step in the right direction, and whichever way you slice it, I do believe that this is something that is necessary on the path towards opening this up to everybody. It's just the way that it goes. We can all sort of walk with a couple people doing it before everybody can do it running down the road, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, and completely would concur with everything they said. Whether or not the Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic and those teams are able to get the prices down to where we would all like to see them go is yet to be seen, but of course that is the goal. And the only other thing that I will add is also in the case of New Shepard is also a technology demonstrator and a test platform. New Shepard is testing technology for Blue Origin's orbital launch system, the New Glenn rocket, which will also have a propulsively landed first stage. And so New Shepard is giving them a lot of data and experience with that. And then also they've offered a platform. They've actually flown Artemis program hardware for NASA, testing, propulsive landing capabilities that could be useful when landing on the moon, have been tested on the New Shepard booster as it comes down and lands, in addition to all the other research they put on the capsule and things like that. So there are other uses for these flights that are not just flying paying tourists. But again, all of that I think is really important to talk about because it is not as simple as Jeff Bezos developed a toy for billionaires. That's not what this is. There is way more to it than that. So I wanted to give a nice in-depth answer to that. Thank you, everybody. That was awesome.
Yeah. Did you see the
And
picture that they tweeted out and they had the Blue Origin staff at all the different facilities,
I
right?
believe so, yes.
And you got to
yeah, yeah.
realize this isn't just one person who just, oh, I'm just going to write a check and then a rocket magically appears. I mean, they
Right.
employ hundreds of engineers. They employ hundreds of employees who are out there working on it, who are out there making the rocket a reality, who are out there working on other projects.
And
God,
and in fact, I think what you just said is like a perfect way of phrasing like the of like encompassing the hard work that goes into this, right? And this is the culmination for a lot of work for thousands of people at Blue Origin, right? We always make
yeah,
a big deal of thanking the engineers on everything, and today will be no different, right? Like
yep,
we will do that again because this is their livelihoods and their hearts and their souls that they have poured into this vehicle and into that rocket. And but what you said that I really wanted to stop and go, that about how difficult this business really is. If there's literally any person on the face of the planet who could simply write a check and make a rocket appear, it's
Mhm.
Jeff Bezos. It's taken 20 years to get Blue Origin to this point,
right.
and this is the richest person in the world. It's taken 20 years to get to this point.
Space is hard.
This is not space is not something that can be solved by just throwing money at it, right? It takes a lot of work after the money is thrown at it, but with enough money, a lot is possible.
Yep.
You know, yeah. But we are about 30 minutes behind on super chats
Oh wow.
because welcome to NASA
Speaking
spaceflight.
speaking of
Yeah.
money, we're trying to
But
catch up with Jeff here. Like, good
no,
luck.
well, we got a long way to go, but help us out catching up to Jeff. But Nick Dahlman, thank you so much for the new membership. Nick Davey, thank you again for the membership. Moritz as well. All of these memberships, very. Shoot, the back end thing is a little glitchy on my end. I think I did the wrong thing there for a second. Anyway, yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Moritz, for the support and the new membership. We really appreciate that sustaining support, and Jonathan as well. Thank you. A lot of a lot of super chats here. Some with no comment. Thank you so much for the thank you so much, all of you, especially those of you who just gave a super chat but didn't actually have a question. Lots of you just wanted to say good morning, Jack. Good morning to you as well. We also have here from Junior coffee money for our Jack. So there you go, Jack. It's not Red Bull, but we'll be able to get you some coffee.
Sweet. I have
Um,
not slept, so that will be useful.
there you go. What time did you have to? You had to leave at like midnight, right, or something like
Correct.
that?
Midnight.
Yeah. Yeah, so Jack's literally been up the whole night. Yeah. And Mink Cypher has been watching for a long time. Keep being awesome. Thank you so much. And keep being awesome for showing up as well. Very much appreciated. Sir Garwin just says Boston. I hope that's where you're watching from. If not,
Oh
I
yeah, that's
too.
probably from that. Yep.
Okay, I was gonna say, if not, I too like Boston. So I agree. Um, Caledon, watching from New Zealand. Also, Godspeed to the crew, and good to see Wally finally make it to space. I think that's a sentiment a lot of us share today.
Yeah.
Is watching Wally. Like, I hope, like with the Virgin flight, a couple of last week, that they have the in-cabin cameras and we get to see their expressions and their experiences as they're looking out those windows and everything as they arc up toward apogee today. Really hope we get to see that. Um,
That reminds me,
yeah,
Chris. I had a thought as we were driving out here. Like a
yeah.
good 3 hour bus ride. Uh, if I was live streaming this, if I was on the Blue Origin live stream team, I would literally just have the camera in the capsule and have Jeff or whoever wanted to narrate the launch as they launch. Maybe maybe they don't want to do that and they just want to experience the launch. But what a cool live stream that would be, huh? From inside the rocket, that would be nuts.
Okay, because I have seriously thought, like, if any of these companies were ever like, "Oh, NSF, do you want to come fly on our rocket?" I would go, only if we're allowed to live stream it."
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
From
Every
in the capsule, every second of it. Like,
everything else is just technology that can certainly be worked out, and our DMs are open.
right, exactly.
Yeah, sign me up.
But Jack, here's a good question. It actually came with a super chat, but I know a lot of people are asking this, and it looks like it's starting to get light on the horizon there. But we have a when sunrise question
Uh,
here from
in
David.
in less
Ah,
than I think about 15, 20 minutes. To my right, there's actually a beautiful pink sky, and the sun is, it's twilight, but directly in front of me, it's still relatively dark, and the camera settings right now are set fairly dark, given that I'm using a 2 times teleconverter. So I'm at I think 14, and it's dark in the camera, but it is lightening up, and the sun will give us all the light we need here shortly. So there will be a sunrise in about 20 minutes. I think my phone is saying 7:08 a.m. and we are 6:43 right now. So just around 25 something like that minutes away.
Excellent, excellent. So we should be able, and you should be able to see that sky. You can already tell it if you were joining us right away at the start of the broadcast that it is definitely getting lighter out there on the horizon behind the rocket. And you can kind of see a little bit more clearly. You can see the rocket there, sort of just to the left of center, and the big crew gantry and servicing gantry off to the center right, and then the big old hydrogen flare stack that you cannot miss. Right there, a little bit more to the right of the screen. But yeah, things definitely progressing. Paul, thank you so much for the new membership as well. Jean-Marc saying another interesting broadcast. We try. Sometimes the more caffeinated we are and the less sleep we've had, the more interesting the broadcast is. So but I do know that a lot of you guys were on here running the stream that went into the evening and night last night. So I know a lot of you were on the stream for that one too. So thank you all too for Jack and Das and Michael for doing that double duty again, because I know when things happen in space they tend to bunch up.
It's funny how
uh,
that happens. Absolutely.
right.
Got
Alan here, just saying, question Earth rocket. When hop? Is that the
yeah,
emoticon version of when hop? I maybe?
no, no,
when
Um,
orbit. There
we're
was
in
the whole
orbit.
when orbit thing. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
oh,
know.
the
there's
in
the,
orbit thing.
yeah, there's the orbit thing. It's an emoticon for something. Yeah, orbit is in Blue's future. I'll put it that way.
It is. We actually have a question relating to that, so we should
Yeah,
ask
go for
it.
it.
Matt asking if they could transform this launch complex for New Glenn as a private spaceport similar to SpaceX's Starbase. So I'll start off my answer to this, and then I'll open it up to you guys. New Glenn is currently planned to launch from Cape Canaveral, Florida at Launch Complex 36. They've actually got that launch complex pretty much ready to go. We're waiting on vehicle readiness, of course. I believe they are also planning to bring online a launch site at Vandenberg in California for polar launches. But in addition to those two, is there any technical reason or operational reason that Van Horn, Texas could not serve as an additional launch site for an orbital vehicle?
Yes.
Care to
Yeah.
explain, Chris?
Yes. Yes. Sorry. I started to choke there for a second. The answer is yes. Van Horn is not suitable really for an orbital launch site, just like Spaceport America really is not either, because you're landlocked and you would be violating a whole bunch of things that the U.S. doesn't like to do with its orbital launches, which includes land overflight. You'd be immensely constrained as to where you could go. You could not go south over Mexico, absolutely not, because you're way too close to the border. That any first stage failure would result in debris raining down over populated portions of Mexico, populated portions of Texas, New Mexico, surrounding states like Oklahoma and Nebraska and Kansas would be in the danger drop zones as well. So no, Van Horn is not going to be an orbital launch facility. It is, however, ideally suited for suborbital because in suborbital you don't pitch downrange, you just go straight up basically, and you can come down in nice empty desert, which is what we see them doing here. Another reason why Spaceport America is in the neighboring state of New Mexico because they're suborbital too, so they don't have to worry about going over anything like that, going over populated areas. They're ideally suited for the suborbital market and the sounding ranges and sounding rockets that they launch from there as well. So it's an absolutely great question. But no, if you want private orbital ranges in the United States, still at this point, they need to be on the coastline.
Chris, I'm going to jump in and
Yeah.
say for now,
Oh, yeah.
because
That's a big thing. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yes.
think I think that we are going to get to a point where rocket technology becomes so widespread and so used, not the one launch a month, that sort of thing, but I think we will get to a point where so many launches are occurring that we have new safety systems or new risk acceptance for flying first stages over populated areas because yes, it's over land, but West Texas is really empty and it becomes exactly where are you going? Are you going to end up over San Antonio? Are you going to end up over Corpus Christi? Are you going over Houston? Sort of the exact trajectory you're flying? Because there are definitely directions that you could fly where you would, for the most part, be over very sparsely populated areas. So we're not there right
Exactly.
now, but maybe one day we'll get to the point where we're more comfortable flying those rockets over land. You know?
Mhm. Yeah, and I think as the technology continues to mature and improve, and I mean, look, and I mean, the technology is already miles better than it was in the 1960s, right? Like you would
Yep.
never consider launching a rocket like that. That conversation would never have been something you would have in the 60s because the technology literally was not there to do it, right? In terms of protecting populated areas, but it kind of is getting to that point now where where you can start to have those conversations. So yeah, I think that is an important point to us. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely agree there.
I want rockets to
Um,
launch. I want to see lots of rockets to launch, just like from all over. Like Nebraska, sure, we
exactly,
can launch from there. I want to get to that point.
exactly, and that's definitely on a lot of people's and a lot of companies' radar, right? Is expanding that out so it's not just the coastal areas that would have access to orbital flight, suborbital flight, point to point,
Exactly. Well, this is
but
this
like
is sort of a
yes,
point to point flight today. It
it is
only
a point to point.
goes
The
like a
point is the
mile.
same, but
Yeah. Well, there's the
Technically,
point's like a
aren't
mile away.
all flights that come back to Earth point to point? I mean,
technically,
it might take 6 months between the first point and the second point, but come on.
but you did it exactly. But you did it. Yeah, I just wanted to hit a couple of housekeeping things before we continue with the super chats and the rest of the questions. We got a lot of questions coming in queue. We're getting them into our queue to ask too. So keep them coming with that tag at NASA Spaceflight. I know some of you are asking your questions over again. Never a bad idea, but we are seeing them and grabbing them into the queue. So no need to write them like every minute or something like that. We are seeing them and we'll try to get to them. But we do have a couple of interesting housekeeping questions. I keep seeing a lot of people asking, well, what stream are you using? It can't possibly be live because the sun's already risen. No, it
Ah,
hasn't.
direct.
When you see Blue Origin showing a sky that isn't black, their cameras are looking at a different viewing angle. So their cameras are looking out to the east where it is getting lighter on the eastern horizon. Jack's camera is looking west. So that's why you did not see the sunrise on our stream, but the stream was live. No saying it wasn't. The stream was live, just different viewing angles, and how the sky doesn't change instantaneously at sunrise. It
And
sort of
and
sweeps across.
I just showed Blue Origin shots, and it looks the same
Yes.
as Jack. Blue Origin
Yeah.
has like 95% host right now, so we're focusing on
Yeah.
the rocket, and we're showing the rocket 100% of the time. So whenever we have a
Yes.
better view on their camera with their close-up cameras, we're using that too. So we're trying to get you all the best views of the rocket today.
And should
Yes.
also really quickly just point out that as the sky has become lighter, this shot from Jack's
Yeah.
camera has gotten even better. Look at this awesome view of the
Yeah.
rocket on the pad.
It
I love the
really
Although
speed
is.
limit 30.
I do. I love
at,
that
I
side.
feel
Yeah.
like New Shepard might break that. I don't
at
know.
a certain point, though, I think when you're showing the other stream, I'm going to shift my camera to the left like 10 feet, try and get those
Light posts.
those light posts out of the way. But for now, this is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, copy,
Um,
Jack.
And just a couple of other quick housekeeping things. We do have a lot of questions in chat asking if they're already in the capsule. The answer is no, they are not yet in the capsule. We're going to see that boarding process that Blue Origin plans to show, and that we plan to show as well. So no, they're not yet in the vehicle, but we'll be able to see that as well. So great question there, but yeah, they're not yet in here. And
Let's.
another great question that I thought here, what's the local time? So they are in the central time zone. So it is currently 6:52 a.m. Central Daylight Time, which is UTC -5. So the liftoff is targeting 9 a.m. local time, which is 1300 UTC. If you go by the UTC clock, and 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time if you're in the US and you know or Canada and you know your offset based on the Eastern time zone better.
Yeah, so that's 8 a.m. local time, guys, for
Oh,
the
sorry,
New
yes,
Shepard
8 a.m.
launch.
local time. Yes.
Yes, it's just
Yes.
over an hour from now, and as you can see, you can really see the sky getting lighter now as the sun rises and illuminates the rest of the sky in West Texas. I do want to go back to the previous point you just made about, yes, there are no people on board the capsule just yet. That will be coming up in, I believe, just about 6 minutes. I believe it's about the T-1 hour mark, although
That's
now that I
about
say
right.
that, yeah. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, but you may notice that the vehicle is actually venting already. If you look right below the capsule
Mhm.
connection is where the booster vents. And so from that, you can tell that the rocket is actually already fueled. The rocket started fueling at T-3 hours, just under 2 hours ago. And this is actually much more common than what some of you maybe think is common because you've been watching the recent Crew Dragon flights on SpaceX Falcon 9 rockets where the crew boards before fueling starts. That is a unique case. But the space shuttle, the Atlas V when it launches Starliner, SLS when it launches Orion, all of those vehicles fuel prior to crew loading, and the crew loads when the vehicle is already partially or fully fueled. In fact, it is almost always fully fueled because the idea behind it is that you complete your fueling and you basically get the vehicle into a stable replenish configuration, which basically means all the ground equipment is doing is topping off the fuel tanks as some of the fuel evaporates due to temperature and pressure. But generally speaking, it is fully fueled and ready to go, and then the crew get on board. That is actually how you normally handle it in human spaceflight. The SpaceX Falcon 9 approach is different because of how short the fueling timeline on a Falcon 9 is. They take advantage of the fact that they can get the crew on board the capsule, pull the crew access arm array, and arm the launch escape system all before fueling even starts, and that gives them just a little bit more safety during the fueling countdown versus having to fuel and then put people on board with
And
the launch escape system, not armed yet. Chris, did you have stuff to add to that?
no, I accidentally said something out loud. I
Oh, no,
didn't mean I
okay.
did not mean to interrupt you. I accidentally made the sound out loud.
Okay, no, all good. So, but the difference between New Shepard and some other systems. This is actually more common as far as fueling the vehicle in advance of getting the crew on board, and that crew should be boarding here pretty shortly. So,
And there we go. Sorry, I made the inhale to ask the follow-up question when I thought you were done talking, but you weren't, Thomas. So my apologies. But we actually do have a question that just came in from Bazanim, who's asking, is there an escape system on the New Shepard system?
there absolutely is. So the crew capsule has a built-in solid rocket motor, actually provided by Aerojet Rocketdyne. which serves as the New Shepard capsule's launch escape motor, similar to the launch escape towers that'll be on Orion and were on Saturn V and things like that. It's a pusher system, so it pushes the capsule instead of pulls like a tower would, but
Like
otherwise,
Starliner does.
right, exactly similar to Starliner or Crew Dragon, but it is solid fueled. But yes, there is an escape system. It can activate once the crew access arm retracts, or it's like a crew access gantry. They don't call it an arm because it doesn't really swing, it just kind of retracts. But either way, once that is out of the way, the escape system is armed, and that can conduct a pad abort or an in-flight abort at any point in the mission. So yes.
Indeed. And ML, thanks for the new membership. And Georgie, thank you for the new membership as well. A couple of memberships that just came in. Looking for some other questions. So here's another super chat from Musical Wolf saying the uniforms look like the original shuttle uniform.
A little
Yeah, the
bit.
uniforms are blue. Yeah, they're not full pressure suits. So sort of like the shuttle astronauts used to wear the blue little flight suits. These are a little more in depth than the space shuttle ones. I know exactly what you're referring to. After the 4 original test flights of the program from STS-5 to STS-51L, they didn't wear the big orange pressure suits on the shuttle. They just wore blue little flight suits with a helmet, just to protect their head. And yeah, they kind of look like that. They did sort of have that vibe to me, but they're a little more in depth than just a covering, which is more what the shuttle ones were. But yeah, they do definitely look similar and not the full pressure suits. So they are definitely taking the same track that Virgin Galactic took, which is no pressure suits for the people in the passenger part of the cabin. So yeah. Thomas, here's a good question from Rough Riders Show. Also came with a super chat. What is the flight number for this particular booster and capsule? How come they aren't using new hardware for a first crew launch?
Absolutely. So the New Shepard system consists of a booster and a capsule, and each booster and capsule kind of stay together. They have constructed 4 complete New Shepard vehicles over the course of the program. The first of which only flew once because the booster did not successfully land on their very first attempt. But after that, New Shepard Tail 2 is how they refer to their different boosters and capsule combinations. The boosters are of course the tails, but they stay together. New Shepard Tail 2 flew 5 missions before being retired, and that booster is now on display in the lobby of their New Glen factory in Florida. And then they have 2 active tails per se. One of which is New Shepard 3, flew a bunch of test flight missions and is still active for uncrewed research missions and uncrewed test flights. New Shepard Tail 4 is the one you are looking at right now, which has completed 2 prior flights to today, both of which were uncrewed, and the most recent of which was New Shepard 15, the dry dress rehearsal. Or I guess it was a wet dress rehearsal. They actually fueled and launched the rocket, but sort of a rehearsal for today's flight was its previous mission. But this is then the 3rd flight for both this booster and this capsule. As far as why aren't they using new hardware for a crew launch, this vehicle is designed for reuse from the very beginning. And 2 prior Tails, Tails 2 and 3, flew 5 and I believe 7, yeah, 5 and 7 missions respectively to date. And so they have a lot of data about the reusability of the system. They have well documented that it is reliable in that configuration. And so there aren't any safety concerns in using a reused vehicle for this launch today. And that's the system was designed from that from the very beginning. And so, yes, a 3rd flight for this boostering capsule on its first crewed mission.
And so there you go. And Taylor Van Camp asking something. I think you touched on this a minute ago, but it's a good thing to sort of review because we're getting a lot of questions of people who are joining the stream, who've been joining the stream throughout. But Taylor Van Camp is asking, why do they fuel so far in advance? And I think this kind of helps with a couple of questions that we're getting. So the New Shepard vehicle uses hydrogen and oxygen for its propellants, and basically, there's nothing that says you can't load them last, and load them after the crew is on board. However, it's more traditional in rocketry, and in fact, it's traditional for everyone aside from SpaceX at this point, to employ a longer fueling uh, s- uh, s- uh, basically a longer fueling plan where you fuel the vehicle first, you get it into what's known as stable replenishment, and then you load the crew. And this helps minimize the amount of time that the crew is on their back inside of their on their backs inside of the capsule, because there is crew time on back limits, because that does affect your body in different ways when you're sitting in those seats. So they need to be cognizant of that. And that relates to the other question that we're getting a lot of from people who are now joining. A question most recently asked by Nathan, which is, what's the flamey thing burning to the right side of New Shepard? And the reason I wanted to ask the propellant question first is because it's directly related. So all of that liquid hydrogen that goes into the rocket to act as the fuel for the BE-3 engine at the base of this vehicle, it boils off. Even when it's in stable replenish, it boils off. And that gaseous hydrogen is basically the most combustible substance that there is. It has one electron. It loves to bond with things, which makes it very explosive-y. So you can't just vent it out into the ambient atmosphere around your vehicle like you can the gaseous oxygen as it boils off, because oxygen is inert and it won't combine. Gaseous oxygen in that form will not ignite with the surrounding elements, but hydrogen would. So you have to vent that hydrogen away from the rocket, and then to safely get rid of it, you have to burn it so that it doesn't explode. So that is the hydrogen flare stack that you are seeing in our vantage point to the right of the vehicle right now, and that will continue to burn out through ignition and liftoff, and you may see it do some weird like where it just suddenly expands and gets really, really, really bright. All normal. The hydrogen flare stacks do that sometimes, so don't panic thinking something's wrong if you see it do a little bit of a light show. But just wanted to hit those really quickly there as
Yeah, sure.
well. And then
We're
I have,
getting some other
yeah,
questions too about where exactly this launch site is. We haven't
yeah,
streamed from this launch site super frequently because the site is only used for the New Shepard system. So really quick, here is a map of where exactly we're looking at. Jack Byer is out there in the field in West Texas. That mark the very left of Texas is the Van Horn launch site. It's called the Corn Ranch, big facility owned by Jeff Bezos, which includes the spaceport. And the other marker at the very bottom of Texas is another site that you may be a little more familiar with, the SpaceX South Texas launch site in Boca Chica, Texas, where they conduct Starship and Super Heavy operations. So that kind of gives you an idea where exactly we're looking at. This is out in the middle of nowhere, left Texas, because the suborbital system doesn't need to, like we kind of touched on earlier, doesn't need to go to orbit, doesn't need to overfly water or anything like that. So they can kind of launch as long as there's enough open area around them to go straight up and straight back down, more or less. The capsule and booster don't land on the launch pad. They obviously land within about a mile or so of where they lifted off. There's a landing pad for the booster, and the capsule kind of lands down in big open areas of desert. But that is this kind of middle of nowhere site because that allows you to not interrupt, surrounding populated areas with your frequent launches. So you don't have to close roads super frequently or interrupt huge amounts of air traffic with your flight restrictions. It's in an area where flight traffic can be rerouted around the spaceport and things like that. But that is where this launch site is. It is in the middle of nowhere. For safety and logistical reasons, but it also gives them. It's also a test facility. It's not just New Shepard missions. I believe. Oh, that's the city of Van Horn, which you can see
Yeah,
isn't
it's
super
tiny.
huge.
It's
It's not
tiny.
big.
It's a couple blocks, and this is what we were talking about earlier. Van Horn not used to having huge influx of people, and you can actually see up to the north that Highway 54 that goes all the way up to the launch site. But if you roll up that way, like we said, it was out in the middle of nowhere. There's just nothing. It's just open land, a great spot for a launch site, right? There's not really anything around to endanger, but there's also no facilities for anybody. Look at this. You're driving around the mountains. You're going all the way up until you get, where was that marker? Jeez, it's further north than I thought it was. Somewhere in here, I think. Yeah, there it is. That's actually the landing site way up north that I've got. And you can see if you zoom all the way in, that is the landing pad where the first stage is going to end up landing. And Jack is actually down south right here. I think the launch facility is up this road that somebody just put a ruler on the map and was like, I don't know, it's just going to be a straight line. And you go all the way down to the launch site. And here we have the suborbital. That's just the tower. I'm like, is there a rocket on the pad in this photo? I don't know if that's a shadow of the rocket or the tower.
It
I don't
looks like
know.
it is.
It does look like the shape of the rocket. I don't know.
Someone check the date on
Oh
this imagery.
man.
Huh. Anyways, and then Jack is actually down here to the south a ways. I actually don't know the exact building he's in, but I know that he's shooting from the south up towards the north, a safe distance away. Probably, yeah. The Blue Origin visitor registration and check-in. Nice. It's labeled visitor registration and check-in. Do you think I could just drive up there and just check in real quick?
Oh,
I
give it a
th-
shot. Give it a shot. Yeah, why not? It's not like
and
the
live
room's
stream it.
closed.
Ah,
No, that was actually really good. That hit a couple of questions that were in our chat. So Vlex and Patrick were both asking how far away are the landing pads from the launch pad, which we just showed you, and how far
Yep.
away is Jack from the rocket. So we just showed you that too. So see, sometimes we ask your questions before we even put them up on the screen.
How far away was that in, miles?
Oh, geez. I could just do a line of sight distance,
They're
and
like a
it's
couple of miles from each other. It's not that far.
yeah.
Yeah.
From Van Horn, it's like 30 miles, and that's
Yeah.
not even going through the mountains and stuff like that. And it's almost 30 miles from the road to the north. There's not even really a city up there, a big city or anything. 20 miles from the north. So realistically, they've got this thing way out in the middle of nowhere. As
But,
you
but
should. You have a test rocket facility. You don't want it in downtown New York City. That wouldn't make any sense. So
yeah.
Well,
But I
speak for
think that the
yourself. I want
launch.
rocket
Yeah.
launches in New York City, but once they're
We all
safe.
do.
that's a different rendering that you saw, I think, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
The rocket's coming into New York.
That's not even what I was going for, but yes, Das, you're on the. I like the way you think. Oh man.
Definitely. Yeah, just gonna run through if you're okay with it, Thomas. I've just got a couple super chats we can run through
You got it.
quickly. Yeah. So another one is saying yay for human spaceflight. We all agree to that. Most definitely. And thank you so much for the support. Andrew Watson with the super chat saying, busy week, y'all. Do y'all have day jobs? And Michael, how is the Euler-Bernoulli beam equations coming along? I have no idea if I
I'm
pronounced
sorry,
that
the what?
correctly. I probably didn't pronounce that correctly, but some of us have day jobs, and for some of us, this is our day job. To answer the question, to answer the first part of that, Michael, I have no idea what he's talking about on the back end. I don't even know if Michael's on comms right now, but uh, equations of some kind are coming along. I'll
I
have to
just
look
had
that
to
up
Google that to
afterward.
see if
Yeah,
that's a real thing. It's apparently a real thing, but I have no idea about it. Maybe it was a joke of some kind that an inside joke that I missed.
maybe it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Decrates, I guess, saying, "Hey, NASA spaceflight, can you ask Jack to let us know if he spots any birds? Bird is the word." That's a joke from previous gun. Definitely, I love it.
Does New
Um,
Shepard count as a bird? It flies.
yeah, we
It's
call
got a
them. We
feather
call
on it.
space planes birds. It does have a feather. That's true. It's a big feather. Anyway,
Big
um,
bird.
Literally, right as you
true.
said that, a flock of birds just took off and it's flying around. I'm not gonna. I'm resisting the urge.
Well, well, there you go. There you go. There are birds. Ticonderoga asking, what is the longest duration that a crew can fly in this particular spacecraft? Is it days or it's hours? Cheers from Bulgaria. The answer is shorter than that. Minutes.
Minutes.
The entire flight envelope is between 10 and 12 minutes, depending on day of engine performance and winds as they're coming back down to the landing site. So the entire flight envelope is very, very short. So yeah, minutes is what they can survive in
Yeah.
with this. Yeah. Oh, Sean Mark saying, "Oh, you guys, this is the first time you all pronounced my name correctly, so have a bit more." Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Um, and David Browns, do you think 2021 ranks up there with other banner years in spaceflight like 1961, 69, and 81? Do you think this year's accomplishments can be traced back to the X Prize? Oh, that's a fantastic question, David. The ultimate answer to your second question about the X Prize is, oh yeah, this can be traced back to the X Prize, primarily with the Virgin Galactic one that happened earlier this month. That vehicle, Spaceship One, was the one that won the X Prize. So yeah, the suborbital market can really truly be traced to the X Prize, also called the Ansari X Prize. I think was its final formal name. So yeah, definitely this year's accomplishments, a lot of it can be traced back to the X Prize in the early 2000s, when that got underway. In terms of 2021 ranking up there with banner years in spaceflight like 61, 69, and 81, oh, I'm not sure of that yet. And don't get me wrong, that's not a knock to the suborbital market. But the feats of 60, so 61 was Yuri Gagarin and Alan Shepard, the first time two humans ever flew into space. 69 was obviously the Apollo 11 lunar landing, and 81 was the introduction of the first reusable human spacecraft, with the space shuttle. In terms of the paradigm shifts, I mean, suborbital could certainly get there, but
Yeah,
I
we
think
don't
for
really
me,
know yet, you know?
yeah, we don't really know yet, but I think in terms of me, with the way that question is sort of asked, I would say 2020 was the year that I would add to that, the year that the commercial orbital space flight got going, um, with Demo 2 and Crew 1. I don't know if I personally want to answer the question yet on the suborbital realm, because I'm not sure if it where it goes from here, and I want to see what it actually does with the tourism market. It sort of wraps up into the question that we always get about affordability, and we always have to answer that truthfully, which is we don't know how affordable this is going to be yet, right? How groundbreaking is this going to actually be once everyone who could pay $250,000 for a seat, which there are apparently a lot of people who could do that, once they get through that backlog, well, what's the price? Can I afford it on my not even close to that salary a year? We'll see. And then I think that, but it's a good question. It's a really good question. I just don't think I personally can answer that yet. Thomas?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna. It's a lot easier to mark the banner years in hindsight.
Yeah.
Let's hold off and see. It is definitely the potential for systems like New Shepard and Spaceship 2 to have a big paradigm shift in spaceflight. I don't know if it's gonna happen yet, so let's wait and see. I hope it does. Um, there's other things need to happen for the first flights like today's to have the impact that we want them to have, if that makes sense.
It does to me. And Thomas, I've been grabbing a lot of questions that sort of piqued my curiosity. Which ones are piquing yours right now? Or
Uh,
I can continue grabbing them if you'd
no,
like.
no,
I
no.
just don't I
I
just
will
don't want to
grab
be the
some as
question
well.
hog.
No, no, you're good. I'll bring some on. Let's see. Mile Hunter asking. Oh, here's a good comparison question. Asking to us to compare the Falcon 9 and New Shepard first stages. So, um,
Oh.
New Shepard was actually the first propulsively landed booster in a spaceflight system. Falcon 9 followed shortly thereafter. Of course, the two very different systems where Falcon 9 has to give the upper stage and its payload enough energy to get the rest of the way into orbit, whereas New Shepard's first stage is only boosting the capsule up above the Kármán line and back. Um, so very different requirements for those two vehicles. And since the Falcon 9 first stage is moving horizontally a whole lot on its way to help achieve orbit, there's a lot more energy that that booster has to expel on the way back down during reentry and things like that. As far as altitudes, though, they're not too dissimilar. New Shepard reaches just barely above the Kármán line. It's literally like 101 kilometers or something like that.
Yeah.
Falcon 9's first stage usually gets to like 120, 140. It depends on the mission, but it's not that much higher. But it is still above the Kármán line and still definitely reaches space on its own. Um,
I
but
think
but
I'm
yeah, yeah,
And correct me if I'm wrong, Thomas, but I think at cutoff, because of the different trajectories they have to take for their missions, I think at engine cutoff, New Shepard is higher in altitude than the Falcon 9 is, but Falcon 9 ends up arcing higher than the booster if you take the entire flight envelope into consideration.
sure, yeah. Let's see some other questions here. Mark asking why only four on a possible six on this flight. So talking about the crew complement, the New Shepard capsule is designed for 6 people. Uh, I'm not sure exactly why they chose to limit it to four. I think they just thought of 4 people that should be on the first flight, which Jeff Bezos wanted to fly as the founder of the company, which is sort of, I mean, it's a lot of different things, but it is at least partly the founder of the company showing the confidence in the vehicle. Before I continue, I do want to point out Blue Origin saying that they are currently in a hold at T-minus 45 minutes. So we'll be slightly delaying from the opening of the window at 8 a.m. local time. Of course, the holds, the way the new Shepard countdown works, these holds can literally last like 10 seconds and then be released because a lot of it is very automated. So don't know how long this will be. It could be very, very short. And again, they have a nice long window to work with, but we'll keep an eye on that timer from the official New Shepard Blue Origin feeds. But about the crew comment, Jeff Bezos flying as the founder of the company to show confidence in the vehicle's design and its safety to help attract customers. That's important. He is also taking his brother Mark, and then of course Wally Funk, who will be the oldest person to ever go to space and being able to provide a little bit of justice, if you will, for the lack of female astronauts early in America's space program. And then, of course, the first paid customer, Oliver, who will be the youngest person going to space. So I think they just came up with those 4 ideas, a paid customer, Wally Funk, and 2 Bezos brothers, as the 4 ideas they had for the first human flight. You don't want to put just anyone on this flight that will get probably a lot more attention than the next one. It's the first ever crewed flight of this system and things like that. Jeff Bezos obviously draws a lot of attention himself for being on the flight. Later on, they will have others.
Hey.
And right
Oh,
on
there they go.
cue, what timing is that? There is the crew of New Shepard Flight 16. Looks like they are going to be headed out to
Look at
the
that.
launch complex to board the
And
vehicle.
okay, I was waiting
Oh,
for this. I was waiting for this. What is the carbon footprint of this vessel? Was a question that we got asked by Matthias. Okay, they go
of
to
the
the pad.
Rivian? Of the
Yeah,
Yeah, I
truck?
was going to say, we talking
well,
about the car
it's
now?
it all wraps up. I was waiting for this because
Yeah.
this is an electric vehicle. So they go to they take the crew to the launch pad in an electric vehicle, so that lowers it obviously. And the engine, the BE3 engine, only burns hydrogen and oxygen, which means its byproduct is water. So this is actually an incredibly environmentally friendly rocket. So
Wait, what?
I was sorry, I was waiting
You,
for the
you,
visual to match that question. Thank
yeah,
you.
Chris,
and Das, you saw that too, right?
Yeah, just as you were talking about that, for some reason their drone cut to a shot of a huge diesel generator
I
next to the
saw that.
building. What the heck?
Saw that. Perfect timing. Thank you. So not completely carbon neutral, but but no, I did just I was waiting for this because I knew these were the vehicles that they take out to the pad. So I was
Yeah.
waiting for that. So sorry to interrupt, but that was just perfect timing.
Say
Yes.
what you want. I mean, I know everybody likes their electric vehicles, but I would drive the heck out of one of these things.
They look pretty cool.
Oh,
They
the
do look
Rivians?
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
geez.
yeah.
Sign me the heck up. These things look so cool.
And they're perfect for the West Texas desert, it looks like. I wonder, we're looking at this countercon, I wonder if this hold is built in any way for crew transport, just because it
It
coincided
is.
so perfectly. In which case, doesn't look like they were ever targeting the opening of the window in that case, like they said they were. So I don't know. Maybe there were other holds earlier or something.
Ah,
But
no, we actually got an answer to this on their
oh, did
previous
we?
broadcast for the NS-15 mission where they ran through like where they practiced this particular mission on the NS-15 flight. Crew walkout and like the vehicle leaving this area is timed for the 45-minute prior to liftoff mark. So if the crew is running slightly behind, they have to pause the countdown until the vehicle departs for the pad. So and it's counting again. So there you go. With that. So yeah, so we will see those types of brief holds because they don't it's sort of like the SpaceX countdown where it is very, very choreographed um uh, to certain things, but they can hold to wait for those moments because the vehicle's propellants are in stable replenish inside the tank. So, yeah, we might see more of those, especially if the boarding process doesn't go as quickly getting all 4 of them in as they have planned.
Gotcha. Let's go ahead and keep taking questions. I will try to see as many as we can here. Um, Let's talk a little bit about crew safety. We were talking about the launch escape system on New Shepard, which has been tested several times. And look at the crew walking past the Blue Origin studio there, or driving past the Blue Origin studio there.
Yeah.
Asking about their landing system. So of course the capsule comes down under parachutes, and like you said, it kind of lands Soyuz style, where it fires retro rockets at the very last instant prior to touchdown to cushion the landing. In the event that those thrusters fail in any way, is the landing still, survivable? Obviously, it will be less comfortable, but is that needed for survivability, or is it more of a let's make sure no one is, slightly injured or uncomfortable on the landing? What's the difference there?
I'm sorry. I got a message that I had to respond to. Blue Origin is like what's the question, Thomas? I'm so sorry.
I was just asking about the landing system. If those thrusters fail to fire for any reason, does that keep the landing still survivable under only parachutes? Maybe risk of injury or something. Obviously, it would be a lot less comfortable, but is that still, safe in the broader sense if the thrusters failed for any reason?
I'm so sorry. I got distracted again by a different one. I'm so sorry. Ask it again. I put the phone down.
We're talking about the new Shepard landing system and whether those
Yes.
thrusters are required for survivability, or if the
Ah,
thrusters failed, would the landing still survivable under parachutes?
yes, it's still survivable under parachute. Yes. They might be a little banged up, but like the Soyuz, it's survivable if the retro doesn't fire at the last second. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you, Chris. Um, let's see, other questions here. Toast asking, could New Shepard be stretched to reach higher altitudes and increase the weightless time, or would it be too heavy? New Shepard has a decent thrust to weight ratio at liftoff. Once you see it lifts off, it'll have some decent acceleration to it. So possible that they could stretch it and get, a little bit higher altitude. However, it's not super straightforward, because you have to remember all the energy you put into the vehicle on the way up, you will also need to expel on the way down. You would have a little more energy during re-entry. Um, the atmosphere would still slow you down to roughly the same terminal velocity, at least for the capsule. So, parachutes and stuff wouldn't necessarily need to be changed, but the heating that the capsule experiences during reentry might change a little bit. Again, you could probably give a little bit fair more altitude without needing a dedicated heat shield or something like that. They actually tested this a little bit. They did an in-flight escape test at the very end of the booster phase of flight to basically simulate what's the maximum height that the capsule can experience, and will it still be fine through reentry and all that. So they've tested that a little bit, and so in theory the capsule could survive a little bit higher altitude and thus a little bit more time in weightlessness. The booster would have a bit of a faster terminal velocity on the way down if it was a little bit heavier, which could affect its landing fuel margin. So it's not one to one like, oh, let's just stretch the tank and you can go higher. There's other factors to consider. However, I would say it's technically possible. The New Shepard vehicle fits the mission it's designed to do, though. It gets above the Kármán line, which is where Blue Origin wants to fly their astronauts, and completes the mission successfully and with the margins that they like. So I don't think there's a demand for stretch tanks or anything. It might be technically possible, but I don't believe it is in demand or needed for anything like that.
Well, in the bottom right corner, you can see they have gotten out of the Rivian. Not sure why that is the smaller of the two pips in Blue Origin, but
Yeah, that is a
Yeah.
interesting choice, but yes. And let's see, we got more questions here. Kayla asking if it will reach Mach 1, and if so, how fast past Mach 1? Yeah, New Shepard reaches just about Mach 3 right before the booster shuts down and then the starts to coast towards the apogee or the highest altitude. So it will go supersonic and will reach, in fact, Mach 3, about 3 times the speed of sound, approximately on today's flight. Let's see here. And also, I want to speed run a couple super chats here real quick. Again, thank you everyone for tuning in and for sending the support our way. Again, we're looking live at the crew on the way to the New Shepard launch complex to board the rocket, and you can see they're taking some photo ops and things in front of the rocket before they head over to the crew access tower. That's in that bottom right camera view that we're getting from Blue Origin right now. But really quick, Cody with some super chat support saying thank you so much for everything you do and for their hard work. Appreciate it, Cody. Let's see. Here is an interesting question. Sandy asking, with space being more accessible and today seeing the oldest and youngest astronauts, when might we see some first children or families going to space soon? I mean, today kind of technically counts. Jeff and Mark are brothers, so there's some family going to space today, but I understand the point of the question. Chris, what do you think about, family with kids going on either suborbital missions or different space flights before too long?
Not sure where we're there from a legal standpoint.
From a legal standpoint, what do you mean?
If you're under 18, how can you sign the waivers. So I'm not sure when we'll get to the point when we're ready from a legal standpoint to say, all right, parents, if you want to sign that waiver for your 5-year-old, they can go. I don't know how close we are to something like that.
I mean, a 5-year-old can go on a plane, I guess,
Mhm.
and within certain physical limitations, you can go on a zip line or a whitewater rafting trip or something like that. And is this a lot different than that? I honestly think that a vehicle like this might be safer than some of the recreational activities you can sign your rights away to. I'm dead serious, dead
No,
serious about that.
yeah. No. I agree. I'm just not sure where we are within
Yeah.
this industry.
I'd never really thought of that. Like if a parent wanted to send somebody who's, like 3-year-old is sort of a straw man argument, but a 12-year-old or 14-year-old or something like that on a suborbital flight, I legally could they sign that? I mean, I know parents can get surgery and stuff for their kids, right? So I don't know. That's an interesting question, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a very interesting point. Totally not where I would have gone with that question, but I never would have thought about the. Oh yeah, by the way, there are risks to flying on a rocket. Very interesting. Hopefully before too long we get to the point where really young astronauts can experience spaceflight and have that kind of become normal. Like it is normal for parents to take their kids on airplanes these days. Hopefully that becomes true of spaceflight. I think that's all the part of the goal. A very interesting conversation. Thank you, Sandy, for your question. Jerwa with the message who says, "Phew, that was close. I almost forgot to hit the like button." How many viewers we have and how many likes do we have? We got to make sure those numbers are close to one another. Appreciate the support there, Jerwa.
What are we at? We're at 24,000 people and 3,000 likes. So that's not a huge ratio. We'll see how many of you pick up your phone and tap on the like button for the stream. Oh, it's already over 4,000. Now it's 4,500. Anyways, that's really cool that they're seeing the people go up the tower. I wish they would just show the people going up the tower. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
that we need anybody else in the camera talking right now. Like, just show us climbing the tower. And you know something I'm going to say as well? Like, oh, why didn't they install an elevator? Oh, they're making Wally climb up the tower. You know something? I hope I can climb up a tower like that when I'm her age. I hope that I am in such good shape. So that is one reason that she's getting aboard this rocket right now, because she can.
I love the at the end of that arm that says "Light this candle." Was that an Alan Shepard quote originally?
I think so, yeah.
In which case, that quote makes perfect sense. Then that's very cool. So the crew now in, I guess that's a white room. I mean, don't really need a sterile room. The crew was not isolating or quarantining prior to today's flight. They're not going to orbit. They're not going to the ISS or something like that. Doing some final preparations before crossing the arm over to the vehicle, though. I'll keep the questions coming here. Really quick, let's give an update on another Blue Origin project. Asking if we had to guess, when could we see the first New Glenn on the pad for testing? Blue Origin says that New Glenn's first flight is targeting the last quarter of 2022, next year. As far as like Pathfinder, maybe they could get a Pathfinder out before the end of the year. They haven't really given a most recent update as far as their testing status goes, but within the next year or two, we should see, that testing start to kick off at Cape Canaveral as they get ready for their orbital launch system, which, by the way, what are your guys' thoughts on making that a human spaceflight system? I know New Shepard is the human spaceflight system they've got right now, but New Glenn, I mean, they're talking about millions of people living and working in space. That's the thing they like to really emphasize. Do we expect them to adapt like the New Shepard capsule or some other crew capsule for the New Glenn rocket in the near future?
I don't know if the New Shepard capsule would be something they could put on top of a New Glenn, but I could certainly see if there is an economy in space, them developing a product to help support transporting humans back and forth. It'd be very interesting to see what they could actually put on top of it. The traditional capsule. I'm a huge fan of things that glide back down and land on a runway. You know how it goes, but
It's a drone.
anyways,
Oh, that's a no.
there's a Mars
It's
cam in
even.
that shot.
I was wondering if that guy was controlling the drone. Looked like he was looking at
Oh,
something.
Yeah, there is
He was
definitely a Mars cam right there in that shot on that
Yeah,
pole.
I think that was the guy that was standing in front of them filming them as they walked
that's
up
yeah.
the
probably
tower.
what it was. Yeah. He was looking
Ah,
down at his photos, not at the controller.
Gotta check your shots.
nice. Anybody who's confused there, Mars Cam is what we call one of our robots, our remote field cameras down at Boca Chica. It's a commercial off-the-shelf, like high-end security camera, and they have 2 of them on the launch tower here that they actually show live feeds from. They've done in the past. They've shown live feeds of the astronauts walking out via those cameras. So when I said, "Oh, that's a Mars Cam," it's because we have one of those too. SpaceX has some too out at Boca Chica. Up on Hopper has a Mars Cam mounted to it. We're claiming the name Mars Cam. Just
Also, we appreciate the validation that we chose the right PTZ cameras because spaceflight companies are also using said cameras. So.
Yes, we chose that long before we ever saw them at Blue Origin or SpaceX or anywhere. And I think we chose it because it looked cool and it said it was hurricane proof. Now I don't know about the tripod that it's mounted on, but in any event, there's
All
their
right, I
white
have a
room.
question about this shot. So there's the crew. Is Jeff gonna wear the cowboy hat to space?
Yeah, all the way to space, and like at apogee, he's gonna take it off and do the Slim Pickens thing. Like he's got to. That guy is very animated.
He's the one not going to space. That might be
Yeah.
one of the crew member 7 crew members. But they, of course, we talked about New Shepard's nominal crew complement is 6 people. But they have a crew member 7 quote who are basically kind of like the pad ninjas at SpaceX, if you will. You know, part of the closeout crew, help the astronauts get into the capsule, help them get all set up before launch, and then clear the pad afterwards. That's that person you're seeing. Then obviously in the 4 blue suits are the actual astronauts on today's flight, and Jeff's still rocking the cowboy hat.
Yeah. What are the cylinders on the wall? I mean, those are clearly some sort of pressurized like cylinders. They've got Blue Origin themed sleeves on them, but there's like it says maintenance valves up on the wall. I wonder what those are for. The fact that they're just sort of standing there.
Yeah, that's
Probably
interesting.
oxygen. That might be their
That's what I was
emergency
gonna
fallback room.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Oh,
might be.
so you mean like there's some sort of leak on the pad or something, and they have to get into this structure that
Yep.
provides breathing air, like clean air?
Yeah.
That would make
Interesting.
sense.
Oh, he still got that hat on though.
Good for him.
And that's at the far end of the arm. That's not
Right,
near the
yeah.
rocket. That's on the other side of the tower there. Yes, cut to Mars Cam. Show us Mars Cam. Be very in their face. Of
There
course,
it is.
Jeff oh, there's a bell. Okay.
But
We ring the
you can tell
bell.
it's the Mars Cam, Doss. He spent so much time dealing with the Mars Cam white balance. You can just tell it's not quite right.
You can tell that this is not a Mars Cam because it doesn't look like it's on Mars. That's cool.
Very
All right.
cool.
That's a
I like
thing.
it.
Ring the bell. What is that tray, that basket in the background is like, make sure you put your loose items in this tray like a roller coaster ride?
Yeah, don't drop. Well, I don't know. What happens if you drop your phone in the capsule? It just floats around in microgravity? I don't know.
It would float around
Right.
until the chutes come out, then it would slam onto the ground and crack the screen.
And then you sue Blue Origin for a new phone. I think that's how that works.
I hope not. I hope you have like an insurance policy that
Or is
covers
that
it or
included in
something.
the waiver we were talking about?
Yeah, it's in the waiver actually. You sign away the rights to, if you don't stow your phone and it gets cracked whenever the chutes come out, that's your problem. Is there
Alright, so
paper? Oh, I thought they were gonna have them like sign some paperwork or something.
yeah, like
Is
right
this
now.
the customs form, like you're going up into just barely above the Kármán line, but you got to fill out this form before you can. Oh, he just handed off the hat. That's serious
Aww.
business.
No cowboy hat in space, unfortunately.
I wonder if he's gonna have like a flight suit Snoopy cap that looks like a hat, like a cowboy hat or something.
Maybe.
Do they
I mean,
wear helmets or anything? No,
I
right?
don't think those
Nope.
suits they're wearing are not pressure suits.
Yeah.
So they're not protecting against cabin depressurization or anything like that as the crew
Like
starts to enter the capsule.
bumping your head, like if you bump your head on something, I wonder if they're gonna have, huh? Is that the name of the vehicle, or what's the RSS first step there?
RS is it reusable spaceship? Is that what RSS stands for?
I would buy it. Like if you just said it with confidence, I would roll with it.
Reusable. All right. Well,
I
I'll
think
do
that I think that is what it stands for, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that is what the RSS stands for. Yes.
That makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. So let's roll with it.
Absolutely. There's a bunch of questions in chat, but I want to keep talking about the things that are happening right now. Let's see. Are there any relevant to crew ingress? Kind of. This one's kind of relevant. Jacob Kerman, nice name, asks about how high the G-forces these people will experience during the launch and after activation of the escape system. If the escape system activates, I do not know how many Gs that is. It is
Yeah, I
obviously
haven't
way
seen that
more
number.
than a normal, oh my god, I just said normal, a nominal launch. If it's during launch, though, I believe it stays under 3 Gs. It's like 2.5 max or something like that. We talked about it earlier. I know Christine knew. Um, I believe it's about 2.5 max during a nominal launch, and then on the way down, it's even less than that because it's a suborbital reentry and landing.
Right.
Yeah, so it's actually not too bad. And part of that is, designing the system for tourism purposes. You want to make sure it's at least a little more comfortable than maybe what NASA astronauts have to deal with on the way to orbit and things like that.
Oh, look, that was like a seal protector that was around the
Yeah,
door. They had a we've seen that on the Dragon, the Crew Dragons, where they actually have a protector that goes around so you don't nick the seal or anything like that, because that's going to have to seal in the cabin pressure, and you don't want somebody who's climbing into it to hit it with something or tap something against it that would make the seal not be a good seal. So that's interesting that they had that seal protector there.
it is
We've seen
interesting.
them. We've seen them board the capsule before, right? Where
Mhm.
they did like okay, we're boarding the capsule. Okay, now we're getting back out of the capsule. Then they launch it, and then like we've seen them walk through clearly practices and stuff. But even on a flight, we've seen them do that. And look at that.
That is a cool shot. Also getting some quick shots of New Shepard mission control, which I don't think we get to see very often, at least not live. So some interesting shots there too.
That's just it. So here's a question, and I'm going to ask this question very slowly. But are there other spacecraft where you can see the occupants from outside the vehicle before launch? I don't think we got shots like this of the Virgin Galactic flight, but certainly there's windows next to the seats. Do you
Right.
know, Thomas, like on the space shuttle, if there was a camera looking down at the cockpit, could you see the astronauts? And those are tiny windows on the space shuttle.
I've seen shots from on orbit
Yeah.
looking into the windows of the space shuttle and you can see the crew through them and stuff like that. I don't know if I've ever seen that like on the launch pad. Maybe Chris G,
Yes, there are.
resident shuttle expert.
That's why I was asking slowly. That's why I was asking slowly.
Yeah, you could see them through the you could see the commander and the pilot through the windows when it was sitting
Oh
on the
yeah?
pad. Yeah,
I'm gonna
Nice.
have to look
yeah.
up some photos
There,
then.
there are some where they waved to the camera too, and
No
they
Nice.
caught that
kidding.
through the flight deck windows. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Especially
It
when they're in the
seems
big orange pumpkin suits, you can really see them then.
because they stand out. There's a lot of contrast there, huh?
Hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just so weird to be able to see you right into the capsule like this. We've seen the in capsule camera where they're in the Crew Dragon or whatever buckling in. And mind you, the Crew Dragon is a totally different thing, like designed to stay on orbit for months, et cetera, right? Versus
Right.
this, but it's just interesting to see this. It's not something you usually see, you know?
It's very cool. You
No,
can
no,
actually
no.
you can see those crew member 7 people, which is, doesn't really work today because there's only 4 people, so it's crew member 5. But they call them crew member 7, getting the crew strapped into their seats and making sure they're all set to go.
Yep. They've got Y minus there as well. It looks like they have the axes
Yeah, the
of the capsule labeled.
reference frame,
Yeah. For engineering stuff. When they got their engineering
engineering
footage
and
they can
engineering
see.
related things.
Yeah. Engineering and
Also,
engineering related.
what is up with the dress code in Blue Origin Mission Control? Everyone's wearing the exact same thing.
They got the memo. They sent out
Oh,
a
I got the
memo. It's
memo. I
like,
like it.
everybody wear your long sleeves with your black vest. It's got the feather on it.
And I
I
believe
do.
someone is that passenger is waving out the window. I believe that is Wally. That was
That
a
is,
cool shot right
yeah.
there.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool.
Is that a reflection of some sort, or is that a screen inside? No, it looks like
I
her hand's going
think
behind it.
that's yeah, I think that's a reflection on the window.
Yeah, or something on the window
Or
or something
or
like that,
something
like a
else on the
sticker.
window, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. At first, I thought it was like a screen where maybe the passenger could look over and see telemetry or something, like on an airplane, and nobody wants to watch the reruns that you've seen 18,000 times because they update the movies once every 6 months. But it looks like it actually really does look like that's a sticker or a piece of paper or something on the outside. Clearly not just a piece of paper, but
Yeah.
it's a Post-it note saying, "Do not open in flight." Nice, Jamorian. If you zoom in, it says, "Get a discount on a new Shepard launch with your Amazon Prime membership." Like
Returning customers get 10% off or something. I don't know.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a postcard.
Oh,
Is it really a
postcard. Very
postcard?
nice.
Yep.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Chet says crew member 7 just taped it to the window. That is cool.
Ah, okay. Thanks for keeping an eye out for us, chat. We appreciate the help.
And again, if you're just joining us, we're just over 23 minutes away from the launch of this mission. New Shepard's first ever crewed spaceflight with founder Jeff Bezos, his brother Mark, Mercury 13, pre-astronaut candidate Wally Funk, an aviator, one of the most accomplished pilots out there, finally getting her turn to go to space and will become the oldest person to go to
The
space.
orbitist.
Jeez. Listen, it's early in the morning. This is an early broadcast. You gotta stick with me to do some of these.
This is the suborbitalist rocket that's launched today. Like,
Oh man. And the youngest person to go to space, Oliver, as
Hang
well,
on.
and the
This
first
is
Canadian.
Origin Mission Control. Good morning, astronauts, and welcome aboard the RSS First Step. Let's get things started with a comm check. Astronaut Oliver, how do you read?
Crew control, astronaut Oliver, loud and clear.
Copy. Astronaut Wally, how do you read me?
Wally, push the button and answer. What? How do you push the button until you can you're good?
Copy, Astronaut Wally. Astronaut Demo.
Crew control, this is astronaut demo. I have you loud and clear.
Copy. Astronaut Bezos.
Crew control, Bezos. I read you loud and clear. Thanks for everything, Sarah. We appreciate it.
It's my honor and my pleasure. All right, astronauts, we are at T-minus 21 minutes and counting. As we proceed, I'll keep you updated. For now, just sit back and relax.
I'm sorry, that was fantastic.
That was actually
That was
fantastic.
cool.
You have to push the button to.
I'm not gonna make an old person joke. That was just very cool to see. So we will keep an eye on the countdown as it progresses, and we'll keep cutting to that mission control audio if they keep piping that in as they give us updates that way. Again, we're over 21 minutes from launch still, but the crew now in the capsule and making their final preparations before the rest of the personnel clear the pad and get ready for liftoff. I'm going to go back. We got some more questions to go through, so let's go through some of these. We got a question, what is the difference between SpaceX's Raptor engines and the engine on New Shepard? So there's actually several differences. It's actually the SpaceX Raptor engine, which is powered by liquid methane and liquid oxygen, would be more similar to the BE-4 engine on the New Glenn
They're
rocket.
closing the hatch. Look at that.
Oh yeah, hatch closure in progress right now. Another milestone, looks like it's all closed up.
Yep. I think they do
but,
pressure checks and stuff. Like,
They might now that the hatch is closed. We'll have to wait and see.
yeah, certainly there's some system that's going to pressurize the capsule to some amount and make sure that the pressure is holding steady. And because they're definitely not wearing helmets, it looks like you can see.
Right.
Yeah, you can see one of them there through the window, and they're just in the capsule. Huh.
But the engine that powers New Shepard is different. It's liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen fueled. So a different fuel than compared to SpaceX's Raptor or SpaceX's Merlin engine. SpaceX does not use liquid hydrogen on any of their vehicles. But the Raptor engine is roughly similar to the BE-4 engine that will power Blue Origin's New Glenn vehicle. So a little bit of similarity, but very different from the New Shepard system. Felipe says that the sign by the parking lot should say horizontal speed limit 30. To be fair, the speed limit sign, we might be assuming miles per hour, but that speed limit sign could have a different unit. It could be, don't go above Mach 30, which New Shepard would abide by. Got to define your units. Appreciate the support there. And let's see here. Rockwell says another great live broadcast and commentary. Thanks, Jack, and the entire NSF team. Thank you, Rockwell, and of course a big thank you to Jack for being out there in person and providing this camera view from West Texas. It's a cool shot, and we are getting close to seeing that rocket lift off.
You probably have bad audio from me, but thank you. I appreciate it.
We got you, Jack. Thanks. Let's see here. Here is a question for all of us, more asking if Dragon, New Shepard, ULA all offered suborbital tourism and offered y'all seats, would y'all have a preference on which one you'd want to go up on? Well, so Dragon is obviously an orbital system, so not suborbital, and ULA, if you're talking about the Starliner vehicle, is also an orbital system. The two suborbital options would be New Shepard and Virgin Galactic. We kind of touched on this in our Virgin Galactic coverage. I personally would like to fly on both because they're both very different experiences. You've got the air launch that you drop from a carrier plane and then get pushed back into your seat as you fly up, and then you've got the like traditional rocket countdown to liftoff. I think both of those would be super cool to experience. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'd fly
Oh
on
yeah,
both. Yeah.
yeah, I would as well. I mean, hey, sign me up. I'd be like, can I live stream it? But if they're like, no, I'd say, all right, well, fine, I'll still go. I guess.
Yeah, same. I'd fly on all three. I'd fly on Virgin. I'd fly on Shepard. I'd fly on Dragon. I'd fly on something ULA. I don't care. Just launch me into space, please.
Just launch me into space.
Yeah.
Nice, Jack.
Let's see here. Dog Cruise asking, is this the first flight for this capsule? This is the third flight for this capsule and this booster. Of course, New Shepard is a fully reusable system, and it did complete 2 uncrewed flights prior to today's flight. The New Shepard family overall, all of the vehicles they've built, have completed 15 flights prior to today's mission. So a lot of uncrewed test flights with prior vehicles and the one that is flying the crew today. Here is an interesting question. When is someone officially an astronaut? Before the launch, after the launch, or after they reach space? At what point in today will these 4 people on board become astronauts?
Technically, even though Blue Origin doesn't like me saying this, when they cross the 80-kilometer boundary on their way up to 100.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna get some comms here. It sounds like.
Bezos, sister to Jeff and Mark Bezos.
Like a family member?
I suppose.
I guess they were trying to pipe in some commentary, but it didn't look like it's coming through. Like the
It
sister
sounded like they
saying good
expected
luck.
commentary, but then they didn't say anything.
Yeah, yeah. They should try
But
Discord. Like they
Here we
should
go.
just connect to Discord and
First up, Blue Control. On that note, Jeff and Mark, I have a special message from you from your sister Christina. Steve and I are so excited for this monumental launch. Jeff, this is something you've dreamed of your whole life, and your passion for space is infectious. Mark, you're the best champion when it comes to encouraging us in our adventures. As you buckle in, I'm reminded of when Jeff was Captain Kirk, Mark, you were Sulu, and I took the role of Lieutenant Uhura. We would battle Klingons while firing torpedoes, all the while dodging in and out of traffic and praying that we make it to our destination safely. Mark, be prepared to fire those torpedoes if ordered to do so. Now hurry up and get your asses back down here so I can give you a huge hug. We love you, and Godspeed, New Shepard.
Nice.
all right. I guess we can say that on is their stream. They can say whatever they want.
Yeah,
huh?
if they said it, we're allowed to say it, right?
There you go. Yeah.
As they should.
Yeah, I was gonna see if they had him respond. They did not. So.
Yeah, in that to be clear, that wasn't the family member. It sounds like she was relaying a message. They
Yeah.
were trying to get live audio. It sounded like, and they didn't get the live audio, so they went to reading the message. It looked like, right?
Yeah,
Yep, we did
gotcha.
not. I have the comments out of my ear, so when they're not having talking heads and putting it on stream, and we did not get a response. So they must have had some issue.
Yeah,
And
makes sense.
Yeah, and you can
should
see them holding again, which
Yep.
isn't unusual. I think we saw this again on the previous one with NS15. Again, this isn't a countdown where there are built-in holds. It's a countdown where if things aren't where they exactly need to be at certain specific points, at 45 minutes when the crew is walking out, and at 15 now just before liftoff with those final checks, if they're not where they need to be in the count, they can just hold it, sort of unplanned, and for whatever duration they might need to. So not unusual to see this kind of brief hold here.
Yeah. In the whoa, there's a helicopter going
Ooh,
over.
there we
A
go.
couple
They have like a
helicopters.
that has like a like a camera mount on the front or something? Or what are those helicopters, huh?
Yeah, it's probably one of those gyron, like very fancy gimbaled mount there. Looks like the helicopters are egressing from above the vehicle, heading out somewhere east of the pad.
Okay. They're like security overflights or something like that, but curious there.
Oh, I think they're camera. I think a lot of that feed that we were just looking at was from one of those helicopters.
Ah, it wasn't like a drone or something. Interesting.
Interesting.
So they are continuing the hold at T-minus 15 minutes. Again, these holds usually don't last too long. It might be related to the crew getting ready to, the non-astronaut crew clearing the pad and getting ready for liftoff. We'll keep an eye on that. But in the meantime, we got more questions and super chats to answer really quick. Can we call this tower Tower McTower Face? Doc, you can call it whatever you want. Appreciate the support. And then Krishna asking, the launch escape system is a solid rocket inside the capsule, right? Yep, a solid rocket motor for the launch escape system, which isn't very uncommon. Pretty typical for launch escape systems. And this particular one is actually a motor provided by Aerojet Rocketdyne, so a little bit of partnership with another aerospace company. Harry Young says, here's why I'll never fly New Shepard. They make you take the staircase for boarding. You know, if you have enough money for a New Shepard flight, maybe you could also convince them to install an elevator. I don't know.
Nice.
A couple new memberships. Brandon Land, appreciate the support, as well as Amiga Clone. Thank you all so much for the support. And also, yeah, thank you so much. Felipe saying, I saw in one of the camera shots that the capsule has a removable for flight label on its door. That was actually on that seal protector that we saw earlier. They saw that remove that, obviously, before flight, like the label intended, to protect the seal of the hatch before they load in and before they close the hatch to make sure that seal stays clean. So that's what they were removing. Obviously, they're not going to remove the door. That doesn't sound very safe. And let's see, I'm just going to speed run a couple super chats here. William Weaver, thank you so much for your support, as well as Martin. Again, thank you everyone for joining us and sending support our way. Bram says, keep up the good work, guys. Really like your coverage. Appreciate that. And Rockwell with another question. How is this not a carnival ride? I don't know. At one point do we get carnivals that include suborbital space flights?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'd buy a season pass to that.
And
yeah. I guess I'm trying to understand the sort of spirit of the question. Like, is it like just as a thrill ride? Because I guess in a way it kind of is a thrill ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it might have been partially a joke question.
But
the coolest
probably a joke.
carnival
Yeah.
ride. I mean,
Yeah, exactly, right?
I don't understand. It's like taking carnival rides to the next level. Like, certainly theme parks and roller coasters and stuff like that are a very popular mass market attraction. Like, how is working on something new like this with the hopes that one day it can be accessible to more people? How is that a bad thing? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Rhetorical question.
Absolutely not. It's absolutely
Yeah.
not. And if we get to a point where this is commonplace enough and safe enough that just like one of those tower drop rides or just like a roller coaster, you can go to a theme park and get on a New Shepard, how amazing would that be? And I think that's the future that we all want to see, is future where this sort of activity is commonplace and humdrum and not remarkable, and like being in a plane or being in a car or being in a ship, something that's sort of everyday. And hey, let's go to the theme park and go on a suborbital hop. I mean, sign me up for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sign me up too.
On a related question, William asks, says Godspeed, Wally and Oliver, and what would you, NASA Spaceflight, take with you if you went into space? I'd take a broadcast kit made by DOS.
Hey, thanks, Thomas. I appreciate you.
What would you, any like little token you would bring? I mean, Wally has a postcard. Any little thing that you guys might bring to space and back with you guys?
Oh my gosh.
I'd probably bring, I know there's usually a tradition astronauts like to take, a pennant, a flag from their alma mater, so I might bring an Embry-Riddle flag. I don't know. Although I think a couple of those have been to space already. I wouldn't be the first to do that.
Yeah, I've got a carabiner that I carry my keys on, like my car key and house key and stuff, and I like clip it on my belt loop. I would probably try to take I wouldn't need to take the keys clearly, but I would probably try to take that with me to space. I have had that since I was in college, which was 20 years ago now, and that has been riding on my belt loop for 22 years. I would probably want to take that. It says Texas Rock Gym on the side of it, and it was from a climbing thing that we used to go to in Houston down there when I was at Rice, and I would probably take that carabiner. If I had to take one thing and it had to be like a small thing you put in your pocket or whatever, that's what I would choose.
You just
Weird?
add an ET
Nice.
after rock, so it says rocket on it?
But yes, Texas Rocket Gym.
Yes.
Yes.
Whatever that would be.
Texas Rocket Gym.
I think I'd actually take something that I have, one of the things that I have that's from the ground support equipment that was used to launch humans into space but never made it to space itself. I think I'd take something of that I have.
Ooh, that would be cool. GSC wants to go to space too.
Yeah.
Some support here from a Japanese viewer. I can't read Japanese, so I don't know what your name is, but I recognize the language and the currency. Appreciate the support there. Glad you're tuning in. And John, thank you for the super chat as well. Thank you for everyone for your support. Java Man asks, in the event of a water landing, can their seat cushions be used as a flotation device? I don't think there's much risk of that here. Not a lot of water out in West Texas, but I appreciate the question.
I like
And
that though.
Deanna says, love watching this with you all. Thank you, Deanna, for the kind words. Appreciate that. We got a couple questions here. Steve asked, what is the max G-force the astronauts will feel? It's right about 2.5 Gs. 2.5, it's less than 3, and that'll be on the way up. On the way down, it's actually a little bit less. That suborbital reentry isn't too harsh, so this ride actually should be pretty comfortable, assuming, the launch escape system is never activated. Hope it doesn't need to be. That would obviously change things, but on a nominal flight, it's pretty smooth, actually, on New Shepard. I do wonder how that compares to Spaceship Two. Do we know anything about the G-forces on Spaceship Two?
Oh.
And it just started counting.
Again
Cool.
for the
Counting
15
down, counting
minutes.
again. Excellent.
Yep. And hey,
So
y'all, real quick.
So that should be 9:12 Eastern. Sorry, that should be 9:12 Eastern, 8:12 Central, or 13:12 UTC. Should be the launch time based on that.
Yeah. Very cool.
Very
I was going to say really quickly, we know, y'all, every now and then we have to cut to the Blue Origin feed, and they keep changing cameras. They go over to, like, the people in the picture-in-picture, and they're talking, and we're not listening to their audio because we're sort of providing our own commentary, but we are aware, like, they're intentionally muted so that we can talk, and since we're using their feed, there's just not much that we can do about it. Like, in the past, maybe we've tried to crop the other little box and just use that, but they keep changing the size on us, so I know that it's a little bit awkward when we do this, but that's why we have our own camera out there, and we just keep switching back and forth. Of course, the views of the capsule here are hard to beat, so even if we're down to, like, I don't know, just 4/7 of the screen real estate or something like that as the capsule view, we're still going to show you that because that is a cool shot of the capsule.
Also, I'm going to keep questions coming here, and Road asks, is there a pad abort for New Shepard, and are they active right now? So there is a pad abort system. The launch escape system can activate on the pad. However, it will not be active just yet. They're going to wait for that crew access gantry to retract from the capsule, so that if the escape system were to activate, obviously it could activate safely. The rocket is fueled at this point. And of course, the escape system is a solid fueled motor, so that is already fueled. But once that gantry retracts, then that pad abort system will become active. And that launch escape system can then, of course, activate at any point in the flight. Really quick, Mike Sierra and Pekka, thank you so much for your support. And then Mike Smith with a very generous $50. Thank you so much, saying these rides, Virgin, Blue Origin, and SpaceX are reminiscent to the days of barnstorming that took people up in planes back in the day. You know what? I think that's a good analogy, and we were talking about that earlier. These early flights may be, a little more exclusive, a little more perceived as dangerous to some, but it's a step towards hopefully making it a lot safer and a lot more accessible. That's a good point, and thank you for your support there, Mike. And McCallum says, best of luck with today's flight team. Red Apple says, good luck. Ross asks, don't the capsule doors have to open outwards? I don't believe so. The capsule, we saw the capsule, it opens inwards based on what we saw earlier when they were entering the capsule.
Yeah, is that the sort of thing where the door
Yeah.
pushes outwards against the seal instead of pushing away from the seal. Is
Yeah,
that?
it might be a pressurization thing.
Yeah. I think that was why like the door opens inwards, because if it opens inwards, then it's got a seal around it keeping it from pushing out. But it is, I don't know if that's confirmed that that's the way that that door works, you know?
Right. Yeah. That is interesting. Yeah, I mean, that is interesting because you're right. Normally we do see hatches open outward, but yeah, this one does go inward. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
And let's see here. Pika asking, does New Shepard have a heat shield? Not really. I don't know if there's zero thermal protection systems on the bottom. I mean, the capsule has thermal. The material that the capsule is made out of is partially there to control thermal loads even during just the suborbital flight. It's also painted white, which helps reject heat. You'll see a lot of spacecraft are painted white for that reason. Um, but it doesn't have a dedicated heat shield with like tiles or things like that. A suborbital spacecraft experiences way less heating on the way back down. Not a zero amount, but it doesn't really need a dedicated heat shield of titles or anything like that. So it doesn't have anything like that.
Yeah.
I see that they had the Kármán line listed there at 100 kilometers. Please remember that the original calculation Kármán did was 83 point something kilometers, 84
Yep.
kilometers, 84.3 or something.
Yes.
So there's this rounding, like round up a
Oh,
bit, but
that that's right.
yeah.
Did we ever finish answering the question? Because I know they did the comm checks and everything and the messages from the family. Did we ever finish answering the question about the when are they technically astronauts? Because
Oh yeah,
they've
I think we
called
might
them
have got interrupted.
astronauts, but yeah. So technically, it's when you cross the 80-kilometer boundary in the United States, regardless of what your system is shooting for. So as soon as they cross 80, they'll be considered astronauts by the U.S. definition, which is 80 kilometers. There is a sort of convention, though, that when you are picked for a flight or chosen as an astronaut, cosmonaut, taikonaut, depending on what country you're in, when you're chosen, that you get the honorary title
Yeah,
of rookie astronaut, indicating that you have not flown, and then astronaut after you have actually flown your first mission. But
Right.
technically, it's when you cross 80 kilometers in the United States.
Makes
gotcha.
sense.
Interesting. Let's see. There's got a whole bunch of super chats and a lot of well wishes for the crew. Wolf Knight saying Godspeed, Blue Origin. Easy Cajun said, we all have our opinions and our favorites in the space systems business, but we are all in unison wishing these for an exciting and safe flight. Cajun, I cannot agree more. That's very well put. Thank you so much for the kind words there.
Indeed.
McDuff says, will snacks be served at the top of ascent?
Yeah, Jeff's actually going to come in with a what was it, a tray
Oh,
of
yeah.
arroyo con pollo or something like that, arroz con pollo, right? And he's going to pass it out in the cabin. You actually have to use rice. You have to use that arroz con pollos because it sticks together and it doesn't prevent or create a hazard in the electrical systems and stuff.
Yeah, and you've got to have your in-flight drink really, really quick. Like,
You know those short regional flights where they say, yeah, since this is only a 20-minute flight, we're not going to be doing a drink service? Yeah, and then there's
yes,
New Shepard, right?
exactly. Oh,
Fantastic. Oh geez. Aaron asked, what are those 4 streetlights really for? You know, not every launch site needs a lightning protection system, okay?
heresy. No.
Laszlo asking, have they brought the rocket in Amazon boxes to the launch bed? I didn't see them do it, so I can't confirm nor deny. Uh, safe to say they did not actually bring it out in Amazon boxes. Here's a question from Lauren. In a successful flight, why couldn't the launch abort system be used to get some extra thrust instead of being ejected like it is on most rockets? So the abort
Ah,
system, if it's never fired, I'm assuming it just stays with the capsule and is good to go for its next flight. Maybe obviously inspected between flights, but I mean, solid rocket motors are very storable. Um,
yeah.
but as
There was.
far as would you use them to get a little extra altitude or something like that? That launch abort motor is not comfortable. Lots of
Mhm.
G forces if that activates, and so you don't want to just take advantage of extra delta V in that sense at the cost of like possibly breaking ribs even maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think that's a good point, right, Thomas? I mean, the abort system is meant to get you out of there in a method that is survivable. That doesn't mean it's not stressful on the body. Um, because it is just meant to literally get you away from a failing rocket as quickly as possible. Um, so yeah, but yeah, to your other point, I haven't heard anything from New Shepard or from Blue Origin, rather, about that the abort system isn't reusable if they don't fire it. So I do think it just gets looked at and reflown on missions when it isn't needed.
Gotcha. A couple more people sending in their support. Micah, thank you so much. NP, thank you so much for all of your support. Matt asking, what do you think was the scheduling conflict, referring to the original winner of the auction who passed on the seat on this flight and ended up going to the runner-up who bought it for his son, who is Oliver, who was on the flight. You know, there's a lot of speculation. I don't want to get too conspiratorial or anything about a scheduling conflict. There are very few things, not zero things, but few things that I wouldn't reschedule to go to space. And the launch date was not a secret at the time of the auction. Even the general public knew. I don't know. It's very interesting.
That's the biggest thing for me, Thomas, is that
Yeah.
second part. It's not that, like, a scheduling conflict came up, because I could totally see if you bid for the seat and then they're like, July 20th after you bid for it, and it's like, yeah, I'm getting married on that day.
Yeah.
Kids getting married on that day, some other major life event. Like, I could see them going like, "Oh, well, you didn't tell me the date ahead of time, so I didn't know." But that is the weird thing. July 20th was known well before the auction. I
Yeah,
I
but
I don't know how you bid on something knowing the date a and then go, "Oh, but then I checked my calendar." Like, I don't know, that might also just be the excuse they use, because sometimes, and I
Right.
and I do wanna be fair, even NASA uses very weird, odd language sometimes when astronauts are removed from flights,
Hmm.
because if there's a sudden medical thing that comes up, you don't blast to the world, "Oh, there's a medical thing and this person
Right.
can't
That's
fly."
true.
You use vague language like scheduling issue,
right.
you
Or
you use
personal issue or
personal
something. Yeah.
issue or something like that. So, yeah, your instinct, Thomas, is dead on not to speculate, but it is worth mentioning, like, I do. It's worth saying that we don't want to speculate because the date was known. So this leads me to believe it wasn't just a, "Oh, I checked my calendar."
Right.
Yeah.
At least I really
I
hope
wanna
it wasn't
I
that.
wanna say, like, I wanna
Really
say
hope it
2
wasn't.
things. I really do wanna say 2 things, though. I mean, things can come up. There may be health reasons or something
Right.
like that. They might have gotten cold feet. It's perfectly possible that they said, "You know something? Yeah, this looks like a good idea," and then they decided, well, maybe it wasn't gonna do it. Maybe their insurance company, for somebody who could afford $28 million, said, "You know something? We're not writing you a insurance policy to do this. We're not covering it, and your business may suffer. Like, if something happens to you, your business isn't being insured." There's all sorts of other things that could happen. And the other thing is, maybe they were just more interested in giving the money for the charity auction.
Mhm.
That's
And they
also
weren't
true. Yeah.
so much about going to space or being first or whatever. They didn't even ask for their name to be put out. So maybe for whoever that was, it was more about supporting the charity than it was flying to space with Jeff Bezos. And I guarantee you that they'll still get to hang out with them. They won the
Mhm.
auction. Certainly they
And
could
Blue
have some
Origin
sort
did
of.
say that they will fly on
Yeah.
a later mission still, so.
Yeah. So who knows? Like, I know
Yeah.
people like to be like, "Oh, wow, that's super sketchy," but things can come up, and I don't know what the truth is. I mean, for all we know, Jeff bought it. Who knows? But there are reasons that things can come up. So interesting to talk about, but we'll see. We're at
Yeah.
3 minutes here.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
are.
By the way, my favorite theory is that Tory Bruno bought the seat to ask Jeff where his engines are, and I'm sticking to it until it's
Oh
disproven.
no! Oh no!
Uh,
But yeah, we're
but
getting into the
yeah.
business end of this countdown, so really quick, let's wrap up. One more question here. Dan asking, how long will they experience weightlessness once this rocket lifts off? It's a few minutes. It's like 11 minutes is the total flight time, I think. And so
Yes.
as far as how much of that is in weightlessness, it's like 4 or 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah, it's either 4 or 5, and the final figure is dependent on exactly how efficient the VE3 engine is, because liquid fueled engines always burn slightly differently than what their baseline is. Sometimes they burn hotter, sometimes they burn a little more efficient, sometimes they burn a little less efficient. Kind of depends on the oomph it can give you on the day, and then whatever winds it has to battle during the ascent, which can also affect the final velocity, which affects your final altitude, which affects how long you're in weightlessness. So 4 to 5 minutes is a good guess, with those little things varying it by a few seconds each way.
So, somebody in chat. Oh, look, The tower is
There we
There's the
go.
crew access
retracting, yeah,
gantry retracting.
pulling back a little bit. Somebody said on New Shepard you only pay for the launch and the return's free.
Buy a launch, get a free return. Sounds good to me.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
What goes up
technically
must
that's
come
true
down.
on
I mean, yeah,
technically that's true on
technically
all
that's
of
how
them.
that works, I suppose.
Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it works.
All right,
But
folks, we're
yeah,
at
here
T
we go.
minus 90 seconds and counting. I know we've got Jack's camera out there as well. We'll be showing whatever the best view is. I also know there's a lot of signal congestion out there in West Texas, like we mentioned earlier. So we're going to show you whatever the best and most stable camera views are, and sit back and enjoy the launch as we get up on T minus 1 minute and counting.
Yep, we are monitoring Jack's camera there, but like we sort of predicted, all the media are choking the network out there, so we're not expecting to have a stable signal off Jack. Of course, he's going to be recording that locally. Looks like we had a little bit of a control fin check there for a second. But
Very cool.
we'll see if something like pops up at the last second. We may have his feed, but it is unlikely we'll get a stable signal. Nothing Jack did, just the situation that we have out there. Massive thanks to Jack for rolling out and trying all the troubleshooting that we did. But we're going to have feeds because we're 45 seconds away from liftoff here, it looks like.
Yeah, we are 40 seconds and counting. So the count will get to 0. We will have ignition of the BE3 engine. At 0, they'll hold it to the pad for about 7 seconds after engine ignition to allow it to come up to full levels and do its health checks, and then we will have liftoff. So with 20 seconds to go, let's listen in for the launch of the first
15,
crewed
guidance
suborbital flight of the New Shepard system.
T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Command engine start. 2, 1. Ignition. We have liftoff. Shepard cleared the tower.
And New Shepard has cleared the tower
Wally, go.
on our way
Wally,
to space with our first human crew. Go, Jeff. Go, Mark. Go, Wally. Go, Oliver. You are going to space.
Sound looks picture perfect so far. T minus
5,
30 seconds.
Look at that.
Oh my goodness, listen to the roar of the BE3 engine. We are just about to pass through max Q, maximum dynamic pressure. That was when the stresses on the vehicle are at their maximum.
Max Q.
Max Q is confirmed. Beautiful burn on that BE3 engine.
Look at that.
Liquid
There we go.
On the
hydrogen
engine is
Mach
normal
1.
too.
and liquid oxygen as the propellant. It's a nice, not just
I mean, there's 4 people aboard that, y'all.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, on their way to a suborbital flight, on a vertical takeoff rocket.
On a rocket. I mean,
Yeah, on a
suborbital, you strap yourself onto the top of a rocket and let somebody launch you up into space. Hey, you get some credit in my book.
Yep. I mean, this is the first. So this would be the first suborbital human space flight on a rocket, not a plane, not drop launched from a plane.
Yep.
But since Gus Grissom
No
in
kidding.
1961. So, yeah.
Very cool. The
And
vehicle's
here
going to
we
be coming
go.
up and approaching main engine cutoff as the vehicle gets just enough upward momentum to carry it all the way into space.
Yep. Look at that. I love just the point of light that's the engine.
Yeah, the engines that burn
Yeah.
clear like this, the methane and hydrogen engines that do
Yeah.
that, look so cool.
Yep.
A little sparkly.
And we're gonna get Miko here, main engine cut. There we go,
There you
right on
go.
time.
That's
So
Miko.
we are coasting now. 60,000 feet to go to the 80-kilometer boundary when they'll officially be astronauts. A bit farther to go to 100, which is where this one will attempt to arc over. But we should have separation of the capsule here momentarily if it hasn't already happened yet. But
It
they
should
are,
have just happened.
yeah, and they are in microgravity at
Yep.
this
You have a
point.
0G indicator on the screen that says 0G. So
Yeah,
Do they
there
have an
you
actual
go.
0G indicator? Do they have something floating around the cabin? I hope so.
I
yeah,
hope so.
I'm sure they do. It's Jeff's
So
cowboy hat, probably.
So they have
Cowboy
crossed
hat.
80 kilometers at this point, so they are technically astronauts by the U.S. definition.
Yep. Just
Continuing
coasting
that
now.
upward coast, yep, about to cross the Kármán line, the 100-kilometer mark. And we'll
I
call
mean,
that out
they
through
briefly showed that on-board
328,000
view.
feet.
I hope they show
Yeah.
it again.
21, 22, 23, 24.
Oh,
Boom!
wow.
28.
He just can't do it.
So-
So you have to look out the window. Holy kid done. Oh, wow.
They've got comms from the capsule, it sounds like.
Nice.
Mark, don't forget to get upside down.
Oh, they're still going, too. Look at that. They're up almost to 345.
They are
there we go.
indeed. Look at that. Where are we gonna peak? This is so cool.
I don't think they're going to make 350. Maybe.
Come on.
It looks. Oh, come on. It's going to be right there.
Oh, they totally are.
They
Yep.
did it.
There you go. 350,000 feet.
351
And 200 or so.
And
210
there you
was
go.
it? So
There you go.
107 kilometers is what they made it to. Almost
Oh.
exactly 107.04 is what they made it to based on 351,210 feet.
Yep. And so they're still
That
in
was
free
awesome.
fall. They're still in free fall right now, it sounds like.
Yep.
Yes, they are.
In
Yeah,
fact,
the microgravity doesn't end yet. They will end once they have to get back into their seats for a re-entry, but they've got a little bit of microgravity left before they have to do that.
yeah.
And it's not unsurprising too that they're not giving us the in-cabin.
Yeah!
1 minute
Sounds like they're having
warning.
fun, though.
It sounds
1
like they're
minute
having
warning.
fun, yeah.
It really does.
Oh, they just gave them a 1 minute warning. It's not like a 1 minute warning to get back into their seats.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah. They've got to be flipping around and stuff. I do hope that we get a recorded camera feed.
I hope so, too.
Let's see if I can see the booth. Yeah.
I think, did you say, can you see the booster? Maybe they can see the booster from outside the capsule window? That would be so cool.
I think they. That's what I heard too. I thought I heard I can see the. Yeah.
That would be so cool. There
So
is
there's
an
the
onboard
booster.
view from the booster, which of course is going to land first. So the capsule is a lot lighter, will be slowed down by terminal velocity a lot more, and then of course the parachute. So the booster will land before the crew in their capsule.
Gotcha.
And you can see them both coming into a little more focus now through the haze of the upper atmosphere.
First step, stealth
Um,
check. Astronaut Oliver.
Oh, wow. Oliver, status check. Oh, sorry.
Blue Control, Oliver, status perfect. In seat.
Copy, Astronaut Wally.
Wally.
Blue Control, Wally is in seat.
Copy, Astronaut Demo.
Astronaut demo, right by seat.
Copy, Astronaut Bezos.
I keep hearing woohoo, sounds good.
They're more interested in woohoos than the status check, it sounds like.
Which in itself will be interesting to see how Blue Origin handles this, because this is also a big
Copy.
test for them about can they get back into their seats in the right safety amount of time.
Right.
Yeah.
I did hear
So-
Bezos in the background to say, you know, I'm back in my seat.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry. Not to imply they weren't, but just to
Thank
also
you again,
say,
everybody,
like,
for
this is
joining
a
us
huge
live
part
for our
of what-
first human flight on New Shepard. So far, a nominal
There you
flight.
can
Our
see the
booster is
landing
about
pad,
to
the sonic
return
booms.
to its landing pad. There we see engine relights. The sonic boom.
Nice.
Gosh. Oh, the New Shepard landings are
And
always
booster
like, wow. Slow down,
touchdown.
slow down,
Welcome
slow down,
back,
slow down.
New Shepard. A beautiful
Look
ride.
at that.
Look at that.
Yo, there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of audio
step,
going
your
on at the
booster
same
has
time.
landed.
But yeah, there we go. We just got that the booster has landed.
Now we
There's
pay
the
attention to the capsule. Stand by for parachute deploy. We'll start with some drone shoots.
The primary mission here.
And there it is, our
Yes,
crew
much more
capsule with
important.
our 4
You can see
crew
that
members
even
on
before the
board.
shoots, this capsule has slowed down a little bit, all the way down to 220 miles an hour. That's just atmosphere doing that, but then of course the parachutes will slow it down much further.
Yep, the flat bottom of that capsule pushing through the atmosphere is slowing them down significantly.
Yep.
And then after the main parachutes are out, that'll do most of the work. But then about a
Stand
second
by
before
drogue.
touchdown, there will be
Stand
the
by
firing of the
drogue.
retro rocket to slow them down even more.
And there are 3 drogue shoots looking
Stand
good.
by main. Stand by main.
Castle slowing down to about 140 miles per hour. These shoots will also help pull out the main shoots.
Yep.
And there they go.
There we've got
3
mains.
mains.
All right, now to wait for them to unfurl once they get down to a safe velocity. There they go.
Look at
With the
that.
unfurl, 3 good parachutes like you want to see. Woo.
Of course, New Shepard has redundancy. If even one of those shoots were to fail, the other 2 would be plenty enough. But 3 perfectly good parachutes, and New
Yep.
Shepard and its first ever crew on its way to touchdown.
Absolutely incredible on that. And of course, and of course we had this question before. It's worth reiterating. It is worth reiterating now. That retro rocket will fire about a second prior to landing, but if the retro rocket should fail for whatever reason, the landing is still more than survivable
Yeah,
at 16 miles an hour.
Yeah. People
Yeah,
have been
so
in car
just wanted to
crashes
make sure.
worse.
Yeah, exactly. It would basically be like a car crash, which is kind of what they describe it as.
Yep. Just like the Soyuz, they say it's like getting
Exactly.
in a like a medium-sized car crash when you land in the Soyuz
Right,
with
yeah.
the retro rockets. So floating back down, I'm wondering if anybody went with
There's
some
Jack's camera
Ah,
feed.
Jack's camera, nice.
yeah.
We've been fighting the signal, but we got you on stream, Jack.
Yeah, we got the parachutes there, Jack. Thank you again for rolling out there, buddy.
And again, Jack's camera is a little bit closer to real time, so that capsule has probably already landed, but we'll see a replay, if you will, on the New Shepard feed. There's a
Oh, the
drone flying
drone!
between us.
The
There's a drone
drone!
flying between whatever this camera feed is and the capsule.
Jeez.
And it
And
wasn't
we're coming
close.
up
That's
on
just,
touchdown.
yeah.
And if you were wondering where we dropping, it's right there.
And a successful touchdown, a successful maiden voyage for crewed New Shepard missions.
Look at that. You can
Oh,
see this.
so
You can see the.
awesome!
You can see the
Congratulations
astronauts.
to all of you.
I'll say that now. Inside.
Ah, what a day, what a day.
I agree, Ariane. What a day.
Everybody who made this possible, thank you.
Blue Control,
Very
Oliver, thank
successful.
you
There
so
was
much for everyone
briefly,
there. It was amazing.
what,
It was
14
amazing.
astronauts in space?
Oh yeah.
Because
Copy
there's
first
10
step.
on our
There
array.
were,
Yeah, I
yes.
got
Copy
that right.
Capcom here as well.
Of course, 4 of them
Let's
came
do
right
a
back
status
down,
check.
but
Astronaut Oliver.
Blue Control, astronaut Oliver, status correct.
Copy. Astronaut.
You hear Wally?
Oh, you can hear Wally in the background. Oh my word, I love it.
Copy. Astronaut Demo.
Astronaut demo, I am unbelievably good.
Copy.
Thank you, Jeff. Blue Control, Bezos, best day ever.
Nice.
Copy,
I
everyone.
could hear Wally and
Go
everyone
ahead and
else's
remain in your
transmissions.
seat. Crew member 7 is on their way. Shortly,
As
you
it
will
should
hear the
be.
capsule off-gassing.
I mean, all right. I'm going to point something out, and there is a contrast here between NASA hardcore astronauts, right? Like full mission mode, like comms check, status check, yada, yada, yada. This is like me and my friends on a roller coaster ride, and they're like, hey, you need to put your thing down. Like, how have you not been in a ride or something like that? It's like, you need to strap in, do it. Bobby, come on, put the strap on. It's it's almost a completely different experience being able to hear the crew of the capsule, I guess the passengers of the capsule, the astronauts in the capsule, sort of yelling at each other like that. I think it humanizes it. That more than anything else, that makes me feel like something that I could do. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Thomas, you're supposed to strap in. Comms check. Jeez, press the button, Chris. Come on.
You have to press the button whenever Yeah, totally.
we practiced this. Press the button.
There was a whole rehearsal and everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like they might tweak their status checks things. It sounds like that takes a while. Like by the time they were finishing the "Are you back in your seats?" checks, it was you had to be in your seat already. Like,
Right,
It
right.
did seem like that, didn't it? Yeah.
yeah, maybe they'll
Just
tweak that. That is actually, I mean, that is part of this, first flight here is testing out how exactly the astronauts interface with the system during an actual flight. They are learning from this. It's
yep,
partially a test flight, at least in that sense. So,
yep.
Um, but yeah, that was super awesome to see, and of course it went very smoothly. It looks like from the at least the broader sense of things. I know after the Virgin Galactic flight, Richard Branson said, "Oh, I've got a dozen things that I think we can improve, but they were all really minor and things like that." I'm sure
Yep.
the same thing will happen here with New Shepard.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
But
is just I I feel like there's a big contrast between this seems to it's almost this is almost a difficult thing to say, but it seems like human beings enjoying something. You know what I mean?
hmm
Like it's not super hardcore like status check. Okay, 1, 2, 3, like mission mode hard. It's human beings enjoying something, and I truly hope that something like this opens up to be a thing that more people can appreciate. I want to hear more people. Tommy, press the button. You're supposed to press the button. There was a safety briefing and everything. Like I wanna hear more comms like that. I want everything to be safe, but that it really humanized it for me. Hearing Wally in the background, like coming over other people's comms net. I'm sorry, I love it. I don't know if I'm gushing too much about it, but I think that that's really cool.
No, I'm so with you. That was so cool to just hear the excitement in her voice and the wowie
Yeah.
everything that we got from her.
Like every comms check was punctuated by her in the background saying, "Wow," like that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
It's just I do hope that this is not just a plaything for people that can afford it. I hope that it goes towards something that is safe and it's something that people can enjoy, just like a ride to the amusement park. You know what I mean? We're a ways from it. Let's be realistic, but I hope this is a first step in the right direction.
But look
And
at
there
them
we go,
inside
recovery
the capsule.
teams
Yeah.
arriving at the capsule.
You don't normally see astronauts coming back in such good condition because normally they've been
Yeah.
in microgravity for months, so they
Yep.
have fatigued muscles and whatnot. But these astronauts, because they were on Earth uh, 15 minutes ago, are totally fine in perfect shape.
Yeah.
You know, another thing. I know I'm being talky here, but another thing, oh, what's the point? Oh, it's only a couple minutes. I guarantee you that somebody's going to take a flight on this and they're going to be like, wow, that was really cool. I need more. And they're going to
Yep.
fly on this again. And then they're going to go fly on Virgin Galactic. And then they're going to try to buy a trip on a Dragon. I mean, the more
Yeah.
that happens, it's expensive. There's no way, like liquidate all my assets. I couldn't do anything to afford something like this right now. I could take out a loan, sell a kidney, whatever. I couldn't do it. But I hope that it gets to the point where people can. Not sell kidneys, not sell kidneys to get on the rocket. But I hope that it becomes something that other people can experience. Jeez.
But I think there's a lot of people who would do that if they could afford it. That is no
Yeah.
question. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, ripping
Definitely.
the. Wow, is that how that works?
What's the procedure for taking
Oh,
off the parachute? I'll just rip it out.
How?
Wait a minute.
how does
What?
that work?
There's got to be a
All right, there's
system
got to be something
inside.
that there's got to be something that deactivates once it touches down, because otherwise that makes zero sense.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
like a huge pin that comes out or something. Like I don't know.
Yeah, okay. I had the same reaction Dust did. I was like, wait a minute,
I
that
saw that guy.
doesn't seem safe. But no, I think there's a disconnect or something.
Yeah, just ripping the shroud line off the side. Got some steady cams working there. The big harness. There's the guy with the mic. Actually, no steady cams. Those are just regular things. That guy is the mic operator with the harness on. Huh. They got enough cameras to document it. It looks like.
Yeah, jeez.
I hope they're on the Verizon network because AT&T ain't doing anything right now. I'm just saying.
There's that crew member 7 personnel still giving them the hold on sign. That's what that generally means. I think they're waiting for the all clear to open up the hatch.
Yeah, it looks like they're staying in their seat and not banging on the windows or anything like that. I want to see Wally come out of the capsule. Like,
Oh, I'm very
she's
much
gonna
looking
do a
forward to
backflip.
that. Oh my, I wouldn't even doubt it.
Oh my gosh, right? Yeah, what is the appropriate way to get out of a like I mean the hand raised fist pumping is
Yeah.
is
I
pretty
always
standard.
remember. Oh, I gotta remember which astronaut it was. A NASA astronaut came back on a Soyuz. She had the biggest grin on her face. It was the best, like, egress from a crew capsule I'd ever seen. It was like pure enthusiasm. It might have been Christina Koch, maybe.
Ah, yes.
Um, I remember that. I remember who was the SpaceX Dragon astronaut who came out like fist pumping and super pumped.
Oh, Mike
That
Hopkins, he
was that Mike
danced.
Hopkins? Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude, there's
after
been a
6 months in
couple
orbit.
legendary ones, I think.
Oh, there it is, there it is, there it is. All right.
He did have a cowboy hat.
Maybe you have to take the cowboy hat off to board.
Yeah, maybe like that.
Yeah.
There's Oliver. I'm assuming that's his dad.
Yeah, assuming.
Very cool. I think was that Jeff's mom too? Was that who Jeff was hugging maybe? And there's
Uncertain.
Wally.
Uncertain. But there, yeah, there's Wally.
Awesome to see.
That was nice. And of course, at the end of the day, a successful flight, they are back with their families. Exactly what we want. Yeah.
Oh my god, it was so great.
You've got to get up there, somebody said. Nice.
Oh, best commercial Blue Origin's ever had.
No kidding. Like, how did you hear about this suborbital spaceflight? Like friends and family, referral, whatever.
Yeah, there are referral codes for New Shepard.
All right, I told you with your Amazon Prime membership, you can get a discount on your suborbital spaceflight. It's like a Twitch Prime sub.
Does that mean we can stream it on Twitch? Come on, there's got to be a connection here somewhere.
I hope so. Jeez.
So yeah, again, a big congratulations to Blue Origin and the team and all the astronauts who are on board were on board for their successful spaceflight. Between this and a Virgin Galactic flight not too long ago either, there's a lot of things to be excited about spaceflight. I know people will have their criticisms. This is going to take some time, but it is worth reiterating that this past couple weeks could be a very big step towards very exciting things in spaceflight that a lot of people could get involved in.
Yeah. Like I said, I know right now, definitely expensive, definitely not something for everybody, but it's got to start somewhere, and I hope it continues forward. It takes time too. I just hope that it gets to a point where more people can enjoy this safely.
Yes,
I don't know that we
absolutely.
want suborbital space flights from roadside carnivals anytime soon. Like, we've all seen those things.
Oh man. Also, a big thank you to Jack Beyer, who was out there in the field. I know he's got some photos up. I'm sure we'll show those in a second. And of course, I know he was locally recording his video. Like we predicted, limited coverage out there in the desert, so the live video, we got live video of the capsule descending towards touchdown. But that video, I believe, will come up here on the NASA Spaceflight channel after.
Well, that was cool.
Yep, stand by, Jack.
Yeah, stand by.
We recovered.
Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. I had server 2 up, but we're good.
Anyway, so now, Jack, that we've got you back, how was it?
That was awesome. But
Yeah.
you know, like any you're always your own worst critic, right? I could have done better. I know I always say that, but I could have done better. The darn rocket, man, it comes down so fast. By the time you hear the sonic boom, it's already landing. And so I did not get a shot of it sort of in the air landing. I only got a shot of it partially obscured while landing, but holy cow, that was awesome.
Yeah. That looked cool.
Man.
It looks like I think every crew member has got a cowboy hat on now.
Yeah,
by
they
the way.
brought the hat back.
Does that come with the
technically
experience? Is
wearing a
that part of it?
cowboy
You
hat
get a
as well.
cowboy hat?
Yeah, I mean,
Jack's
it's
wearing a
just
cowboy
part of
hat
the
too.
course.
Nice.
We're in the West Texas desert. I mean, come on. You gotta
Actually,
when in Rome.
Actually, to be fair, the men have cowboy hats.
Oh
Wally does
yeah,
not.
Wally does
Yeah.
not have a cowboy hat.
Ah, okay.
Someone
Huh.
get Wally a cowboy hat. Come on.
like an earpiece or something? What is the?
Yeah, their comms headpieces were like little earpieces. Like, they had them on before flight too. Yeah.
Well, that's the problem. Bluetooth. Who trusts that? Trust that for anything?
Well, I would hope
Jeez.
a company called Blue Origin would.
Would trust Bluetooth.
Oh.
Oh my gosh, the stream's over. All right, shut it down, Michael. We're done. Jeez.
You know what's
Hey.
also really interesting, and it's a good sort of like how this is different. We're so used to seeing spacecraft land, right? And like they have to go out with all the sniffers to make sure it's not leaking
Yeah.
anything toxic because of the propellant that's used for the reaction control system thrusters on orbital craft. This doesn't go orbital. It doesn't need a reaction control system, so they can hang out
Well,
next to it with no real like risk of like a reaction control system leak of something really, really
Chris, I
dangerous.
believe the New Shepard capsule has a reaction control system because they can purposely spin up the capsule to certain amounts so that people get different views and to
Is that
also
done by the
simulate certain.
capsule?
Yes.
Oh, I thought that was done by the rocket.
Now,
I
I
thought
don't
the
know what it's
rocket did
fueled
that at
by,
the
so your
very
point
end.
probably still stands considering what we're seeing, but there are RCS thrusters on the capsule.
Oh, okay.
Because I remember this is actually very interesting. Blue Origin pointed out that they can actually simulate lunar gravity in the capsule by spinning it a little bit. So if they want any lunar specific experiments on board, they can do that. I know that was just one
Interesting.
of the reasons, but
Ah, interesting.
part of it was also on today's flight. They would have spun it so that everyone from their respective parts of the capsule can look out the window and see basically all the angles during their flight. I don't know how far you can see from like what you can see from West Texas once you're up above the Kármán line, but there is reaction control on the New Shepard capsule.
Yeah.
Ah,
And
okay.
hey,
No, cool. I thought the booster was the one that imparted the spin toward the end. So cool. Yeah.
real quick, y'all, if the quality is fuzzy right now, make sure that YouTube hasn't relegated you down to low quality mode. Sometimes when there's a little hiccup like that, YouTube will think that your connection's no bueno, and it will send you to like a low bitrate mode. So if the text on the screen, like first human flight up there, if that's blocky, that's not just the video being blocky, that's your resolution. Do the little gear and put it back to high quality mode or whatever you normally run in. But we had a little technical hiccup really quickly, and if you just refresh the page and then go to the little gear, set it back to high quality, you should get that back. But we are back nominally now. I just know every now and then that freezes up for some people. And those are Rivian trucks, yes, in the background. I want
Lots
one.
of them.
Yeah, like a fleet.
Well, you know they're not going to use Tesla trucks, so
Oh, geez, because you can't get those.
it's true.
You
Fair.
you can get a Rivian. You can't get a Tesla truck. Or I guess Jeff can get a Rivian.
Very cool. I
Yep.
do want to recap. I know we got a bunch of questions and messages over through. I'll speed run some of these really quick. Emotion asking about orbital versus suborbital. New Shepard can't go orbital. We're waiting for New Glenn for that, although that is a big next step that I think Blue Origin will like to talk a little bit more about. Now that they've got people on New Shepard, everyone's going to be asking when people on New Glenn, when anything on New Glenn for that matter. But I know we're all keeping an eye on that as well. Logan asking about how long will they spend in space? Well, they have spent in space. They were in space for only a couple minutes or so. They were in microgravity for about 4 or 5 minutes. The total flight was about 11 minutes.
Any way you slice it, above the Kármán line, though. You use the original calculation, use 100-kilometer, the rounded calculation. International, U.S., anybody who's defined what is in space, they definitely went to space today. So.
I don't know. They didn't cross the Ripley line, though, Das.
Oh, the Ripley line. Hey, but you know something? I know they didn't cross the Ripley line because I could hear
we heard
them
Wally
screaming.
screaming.
Yeah, we heard Wally scream. Exactly.
Oh, man.
The sorry for those of you who don't know, the Ripley line is something that is a kind of a joke that Jonathan McDowell came up with, and we've talked about it on the on previous streams. It's a kind of a humorous little take on where space begins. It's not a real thing. It's not a real thing.
Well, I mean, technically, you could calculate it, and there would be a real physical line where your screen would stop propagating. But
Well,
luckily,
yes,
I don't think there's any xenomorphs up there to worry about. So.
And then a couple more messages that have come through here. Jesse saying, back then, people watched astronauts be launched into space on their television. Now they can watch it on their phones. A very, very good point. We're moving into the future.
Yep.
Have you guys heard of the protest against Jeff to not allow him to re-enter? Yes, we all saw the petition. That's not how spaceflight works, though. It's not how suborbital spaceflight works, at least.
Yeah.
Doug asking, will they exceed the altitude that the X-15s reached? You know, off the top of my head, how high did X-15 flights get?
Most of them didn't get above 100 kilometers. I think they got to like 100 and, hang on. I think they got to like 105, 107. Let me pull it up. I've got it right here. For the ones that went. The highest an X-15 ever reached was 107.8 kilometers. So by 0.8 of a kilometers, the X-15 wins over this flight of New Shepard.
Just barely. Gotcha.
Just barely. Yep. And that was flight 91 of the X-15 on the 22nd of August, 1963, piloted by Joseph A. Walker, just for the record.
Yep.
It looks like we're now watching a highlight video from the origin of today's successful mission.
Excellent.
Wow.
There's that seal
Sweet.
protector again.
Yeah.
Nice. Waving out of the window
Wally
of the Capitol.
waving.
Yep. Arm retracting. And again, this is a highlight video, y'all. This is a replay, a successful flight past the edge of space for Blue Origin there. The 4 astronauts, now astronauts, safely back on the ground. This is a replay from earlier. That looks like it might have been filmed with a Mars cam. The color balance is way off. I love this drone shot, though. That
And
shot right there.
And that was the first time they nailed it, I think.
Yeah.
The
Dead
previous
center.
times, timing had been slightly off on the tilt up, but that time perfect.
Yep. Mission control grinning there.
Oh, wow. Look at the booster footage from the drone.
That's a cool shot.
That's the fashion hover. That's just showing off. I mean, 100% engineering. That is, we have control of this vehicle. It is doing what we want it to. It's not, ballistically falling and just barely sticking the landing. That engine is in control of that vehicle. That's very impressive to be able to hover that thing like that. I know people want to bag on the rocket or whatever, but the fact that they can do that is impressive.
It does look like what happens when you let MechJeb handle a landing in Kerbal, though.
Yeah.
Nice. I think really people should have bought stock in champagne companies before all these suborbital space flights, you know? Wait,
Well, who's the other guy? That wasn't
can the
Oliver.
young guy drink? Can Oliver
Not
drink?
in the U.S.
Yeah, wait a second.
He is Dutch.
Not in the U.S.
I think
It
it's
doesn't
US
matter your
that-
nationality. It goes
Yeah.
by the law of the country you're in. So not technically, but who's gonna care?
Yep.
Yeah.
We've got, hey, once he was in space, could he have taken a sip real quick, like out of the jurisdiction?
You want the actual legal answer to that?
Maybe. Anyways, was the vessel
No.
flagged U.S.?
No, because it's under U.S. jurisdiction, so it has to follow U.S. rules and laws.
Oh, no fun. No
It's-
fun. I was on a
it's
cruise
not
ship when I
weird.
was 16, and I don't think they followed
Right.
those same rules. But we've got a
Well,
tweet from
no,
Jack
because you're
here.
actually, yeah. It has something to do weird with like the way that space is, where like anything that goes to space is technically under the laws of the nation that it is incorporated in. Which is why like when you hear going out to sea and everyone's like, yay, you don't have to get FAA regulations. Oh no, you still do.
Yeah.
Because they're incorporated in the US. Yeah.
And it looks like we've lost the live feed from Blue
Yeah.
Origin there. Of course, Jack is out there as well, but nothing else to see from Jack. So we've brought up Jack's tweet here and my desktop, apparently. But these are some photos from Jack. He tweeted these out just afterwards. I need to do this. Go ahead and retweet and stuff. And we're going to put this link in chat as well. Let me see if I can bring up some of these photos. There, of course, is the Liftoff coming up. And here is the link to tweet going into chat a few times. So you can click on it like that. So that's Jack's photo of Liftoff. That's
Let's
really
see.
cool.
That
How
is an
many
awesome shot.
retweets? How many retweets can chat get on Jack's tweet?
We're at 125. I didn't see what it was when I clicked the button, but it's supposed to update in near real time. I wonder. There's 126. Thank you, whoever did that in chat. We appreciate you. But a
Yeah,
couple
awesome
different photos
Liftoff
in the
shot.
tweet here. I know we're showing it in a video. It's easier if you bring up the tweet directly. There's 135 doing work. Good job. There is it in flight. Again, Jack is going to have the recording of all this as well. We'll see what we have for some sort of video recap or short or something like that. I'm not sure. And let's see here. I just like the plume there, the plume of exhaust. Again, those are Jack's photos. And we should also have coming up There we go. 3 good parachutes. That is
Very
super important
nice.
for the primary mission, but all the way up past the edge of space and back home again safely.
Jack, awesome
Congratulations.
shots.
Yeah, good job, Jack. Oh, wow, we're up to 240, 247? Is that for real? That really went. Nice.
Shout out to chat.
Shout out to chat for real. Hey, Michael, since we have the screen up, can I do my replay?
Yes, you can do your replay.
Begrudgingly, jeez.
Yeah, wow. I really don't feel like Michael is excited about my replay. But we are going to go ahead and play this one more time here, folks. Let's go ahead and watch one more replay.
Oh, jeez.
You may notice this. This is, of course, not the new Shepard. I called this the Nuevo Snackero because it's in Kerbal. Replicated the mission in Kerbal Space Program a pretty good while ago. Actually, you can download this craft and fly it yourself. I got the TVC checks and everything in there. There's a song that goes behind it. Look how cinematic it is. Do you know how long it took me to edit this video? I'm not good at editing videos at all. But I'm going to crash Kerbal X really quickly. Look, it's so cinematic. You can even see into the capsule with the Kerbal sticking their heads out. Here is the link. If you want to download and fly the craft, you can go to that link right there. And finally, Twitch chat, if you're watching over on Twitch, once again, there is Kerbal on my channel. I have the entire mission.
Took long enough, Dust.
I even have the retro rockets. Watch. Pay attention. You'll see. Spared no expense.
Nice.
You like it?
No expense. Love it.
All right. Anyways, y'all, I don't know what scene we're gonna end on now, but
I think this one.
Good times. Good times. Time to wrap it up though.
Yeah, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to the live coverage from NASA Spaceflight of today's flight. Again, stay tuned for a highlights video from Jack's locally recorded footage and stuff like that of today's flight. But thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you all so much for all the support, super chats, memberships, or just tuning in to say hey. We appreciate that you came and enjoyed the launch with us. We'll go around the horn real quick. My name is Thomas Burkhart, News Director at NASA Spaceflight. On some commentary, I was also joined by Assistant Managing Editor Chris Gebhardt. Chris, thank you for joining us today.
As always, great to watch people go to space.
Back in the production studio, we also had Das. Das, thank you so much today.
Hey, no worries. That was a good time. I'm glad we got to see that, and I hope I didn't run my mouth too much. I was just excited and happy for the crew there.
Oh, it was awesome. Also, Michael Baylor in the studio as well. Michael, thank you for all of your help today.
No problem. That was super fun and very appreciative of Jack for making my job easier. Without his feed, we would have had a lot of Blue Origin full screen talking heads on that first half an hour. But
yeah,
Jack really saved the day, and I think we had by far the most rockets, which we call the ratio?
Rocket to time ratio or something?
Rocket
Yeah.
to time, yeah, something like that. But thanks to Jack for
Yeah,
traveling all
huge
the way
thank
out there.
you
absolutely.
to Jack Beyer out there in the field. Guys, if you're not following Jack at the Jack Beyer on Twitter, you need to be following him. He's the one out there, middle of nowhere, New Mexico, West Texas, Boca Chica, wherever he may be for NASA Spaceflight. Jack, thank you for being out there, and we're looking forward to your footage on the channel later today as well.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you guys for watching. To everyone who supports our stream, and thank you to everybody who likes and subscribes. Everyone, history was made today, so thanks for watching along.
Awesome. All right, from all of us here at NASA Spaceflight, that is going to do it for our live mission coverage. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you all next time.
Liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
The chamber pressure looks good. Doubling up. Roger roll, Atlantic.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Echo Delta nominal.
Flight now, feed off. Bring in, feed off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.